Hello everyone, in this video we will be seeing part 17 of What If Deku Was in the DC Universe, so be sure to stick around until the end. Let's get started. Izuku sat in front of all his girlfriends. Diana, Kara, Z, Jessica, Barbara, Karen, and Galatea all sat in front of Izuku as he mentally prepared himself to explain the situation. He didn't know where to begin, but he knew that he had to explain things to them. They had been told of what happened in Galatea's incident with the Nightmare Goblin and what Izuku had to do to defeat it. They were all relieved that the creature hadn't hurt their friends in any serious way, but now they were all curious as to the vision that had been conjured by the little monster. "All right, we're all here, Izuku," Diana said. "Please tell us what happened." Her voice was always so sure and protective that Izuku's worries seemed far smaller than they were. He let out a sigh and figured that he should start at the beginning. "Well, remember when I told you guys about One for All and how my mentor passed it down to me?" Izuku asked, earning nods from the girls. "Well, this quirk has a bit of a complicated origin. It didn't just appear out of nowhere." "What do you mean, Greenie?" Kara asked. "Did someone create that thing?" "Oh, was it aliens?" "It was aliens, wasn't it?" "I hope that it was aliens," Barbara mused before Jessica calmed her down. "Sorry, Izuku. Please continue," Jessica said. "Thanks, Jess. It all started many years ago, when quirks were still appearing all over the world in Japan. Tensions were high and people were afraid. The idea of heroes was a distant one, and the science behind how quirks came to be was a mystery." Izuku explained. "That's when a man showed up. I don't know his real name, he probably erased it years ago. This man had a strange quirk, which allowed him to take and give quirks away, storing them in his body." "Like a living armory of superpowers?" Diana asked, curious of this power. "Something like that. Some people that felt outcast from society by the unfairness, those that felt powerless, and those that rejected their quirks sought him out. He created a powerful network of different agents and became known as the most powerful man in all of Japan." Izuku continued. "One could even say that he ruled the country from the shadows with his own army of minions. In time he became known as All for One, the villain with all the quirks in the world. However, a person stood against him at the time, his own younger brother." "Must have been difficult to stand up to your own brother," Karen muttered. "Especially when they were so big. The younger brother wasn't strong enough to defeat All for One. He didn't have the strength nor the backing that his brother had. One day, All for One got tired of his brother's rebellion, so he gave him a quirk. All for One hoped that the power would sway his younger brother to his side." As Izuku told the story, the girls reacted with anger at the man's actions. Diana wanted to confront him and bring him to justice. Kara wanted to punch him into the stratosphere. Z could think of a couple of magical realms where he'd suffer. Jessica hoped that someone stopped the man. Barbara wondered how someone grew in power like that so quickly. Karen was shaking in fear of the man's actions, and Galatea wanted to put All for One through the ringer before throwing him into the Phantom Zone. "What a coward," Z replied. "So what was this quirk that this All for One gave him?" Galatea asked. "It wouldn't have been a powerful one, right?" Jessica surmised. "That way he wouldn't stand in his way." "Exactly. All for One gave his younger brother a simple quirk, a power-stacking quirk, which many thought to be useless," Izuku answered. "But the younger brother had a quirk of his own, a quirk that could pass down any ability and power to someone else. The two quirks combined into one. The younger brother knew that he was no match for his brother, but with this new quirk he'd give future generations a chance. The quirk was passed down from user to user until it reached my mentor, gaining power and stacking the hopes off all those before into a new hope." Izuku unconsciously channeled the power of his quirk. The green lightning crackled around his body as his eyes shined a bright green. The air around him grew warm and filled with energy like a massive radiator being turned on. "This is the power that was created to defeat All for One, One for All," Izuku exclaimed, tightening his hand into a fist. Just then he realized that his quirk had been activated. Izuku pulled back the power of One for All. "And that's the story. Sorry I got caught up in it at the last moment," Izuku said sheepishly, going back to the muttering mess that he usually was. "So wait, what happened to this guy? How is he still kicking?" Galatea asked. "He must have gotten a hold of a quirk that slowed down his aging. If he's been at this for such a long time, then it would make sense." Barbara suggested. "Yeah, that's what All Might thought as well. He was the last one to face him, but he's afraid that All for One might still be around." Izuku said. "Do you think that this All for One might still be alive?" Diana asked. Izuku wasn't sure what to answer. He looked away before he replied. "I don't know," Izuku said with a sense of defeat. "All Might thought that he finished it, but I guess a part of him always feared that All for One would still be around, weak but still alive. If he is indeed out there, he'll have to answer to the Titans," Diana said. "We shall not let his evil deeds go unpunished." "What Diana is trying to say is we're with you, darling," Z clarified. "Yeah, no one messes with our ombre without going through us first," Jessica added. "Yeah, we're the only ones you should be afraid of, not that guy," Kara added with a laugh. "Especially when we're angry, which we rarely are with you," Galatea said. Izuku smiled. He was more than thankful for their support. He wouldn't change them for the world. "Thanks, girls. Now let's go and do some good." Izuku said, hoping to cheer everyone up. The girls cheered at the suggestion. If we're looking for something low-key, there have been some strange symbols being graffitied all over the city, Barbara said, showing pictures of the strange symbol. We could bring them to justice and then we can celebrate a good end of the week, Karen said. Diana looked at Izuku and he nodded in agreement. Then let us go forth, Diana said. Titans together. The Titans suited up and took to the streets. They searched for the source of the strange graffiti that had been found across the city over the last couple of days. The symbol wasn't one that was linked to any of the known gangs of the city. The Titans feared that this could be a new rising gang trying to cut their territory from the entire city. It was a scary thought to have a gang war through the streets of Metropolis. Deku and the rest of the Titans were looking at the pictures of the symbols, hoping to find a pattern of where they would strike next. According to my calculations, they should make their mark here next, Batgirl pointed out. At the warehouse near Marshall and Parker. Then we will capture them and find out what they know. Wonder Woman said in a heroic pose. We should hold back a bit. These could be just some punk kids thinking they are part of a big gang, Deku pointed out. So no overwhelming force, Supergirl asked. Kitty gloves girls, Zatanna clarified. Man, what a way to take the fun out of IIT, Power Girl whined. Well, we won't make any progress by sitting around, Green Lantern said. Green Lantern is right, let's go and bring these guys to justice, Deku agreed. Well said, my friends. Onward, Wonder Woman called out. The group of heroes rushed to the warehouse. They kicked down the door, causing a small cloud of dust to move up into the air. They were ready for a fight. The heroes were expecting formidable opponents, armed with guns, knives, and maybe a few nunchucks. But the warehouse was empty. There was no trace of a group or that an artist had been there. However, at the very back of the symbol was stamped on the wall. If there had been someone in that warehouse, they had already left. We missed them, Bumblebee pointed out. Maybe, but we can still look for clues about where they have gone, Deku said. Look for anything that could tell us who was here. You heard him, let's look around for clues, Batgirl said. The Titans started looking around, wondering what the new gang would be like. But as they looked for clues, they felt that there was more to this place. There were movements in the shadows of the warehouse. Batgirl and Bumblebee crouched in front of the symbol. They pulled out their equipment to analyze the symbol, but they didn't find anything in the form of fingerprints or DNA traces. The Teen Titans felt that there were a bit more around the place aside from them. They heard creaking on the upper parts of the warehouse. It was like tiny feet were scouring around over their heads. The heroes were on edge. They weren't alone. Deku approached Wonder Woman while looking up from the corner of his eye. I don't think we're alone, he whispered. Indeed. Let's slowly get out and then surprise them, Wonder Woman suggested. Hey guys, you won't believe to this, Batgirl called out, startling everyone. As Batgirl spoke, the beings in the shadows moved around the team. The beings were hidden from the sight of the team, causing the Titans to huddle together in a defensive formation. The heroes were ready for a fight as the other shadows slowly came out, casting 5 intimidating silhouettes. However, that didn't frighten the Titans at all. Looks like we found our taggers, Deku said, activating one for all. Finally, I've been aching to punch something all day, Supergirl said, smiling a cocky smile. We must commend these hooligans for stepping into a fight, Zatanna added. Brave or foolish, they will not get any mercy from US, Wonder Woman stated. Please, these punks are no match for, Power Girl began before a fast sucker punch sent her flying away from the team. Power Girl, Deku cried out, rushing after his friend. Deku caught Power Girl before she could crash against the floor of the warehouse. Are you alright, Power Girl? Deku asked, putting Power Girl back on her feet. Yeah, but these guys hit harder than I thought, Power Girl replied, rubbing her cheek. Alright, kitty gloves are oof, Batgirl said. Attack, Wonder Woman called out, pulling out her sword and shield. The Titans, with Deku and Power Girl, charged at the mysterious attackers with everything they had. Wonder Woman brought down her sword against one of the silhouettes. Her sword struck the floor, missing the silhouette. Her eyes widened in shock before she swiped to the left, but the figure once more dodged the attack. Wonder Woman lifted her shield, blocking a series of punches against her. She ducked down, sweeping her leg, bringing down the fighter. She jumped up to bring down her fist at the enemy, but the silhouette dodged the attack in a blur of speed. What in the name of Hera was with that speed? Wonder Woman wondered. Supergirl rushed at the shortest of the silhouettes with her arm pulled back for a punch, but the figure pulled out a wall of water, blocking the punch. The now soaked Kryptonian growled at the silhouette before trying to punch it again and again. But every punch she threw was dodged or missed the mark entirely. It was as though Supergirl was punching the water instead of the silhouette. Okay, you want to play like that? Let's play. Supergirl snapped with a thunderous clap. Supergirl's clap sent the silhouette flying away from her with the water going along with it. However, before she could celebrate, a larger silhouette towered over her. She tried to send the large silhouette away with a single punch, but the larger silhouette sent her flying with a smack from a spiked mace. Hey bozo, why don't you pick on someone your own size? Bumblebee said, aiming her stinger at the silhouette. The larger being grunted, extending its wings in an intimidating display of power. Eep, Bumblebee muttered. Hey, Harvey Birdman, Power Girl called out, getting the big guy's attention. Why don't you try that with me? She taunted, punching him away. Zatanna was firing blasts of magic at the speedy silhouette that Wonder Woman had been fighting. She thrusted her palms forward as the purple beams of magic sprung from her hands. She intended to use her magic to keep the gang member frozen with a simple spell. But her target was a tall version of Speedy Gonzales. She couldn't pin him down, and every time she had a lock on the target, it would sidestep away. "Stay still," Zatanna called out, getting frustrated. Deku and Batgirl were dealing with the other two members of the shadowy group. Batgirl jumped over one of the gang members as he pulled out a bow and an arrow from the quiver on his back. As the arrows flew towards her, she threw her own batarang, blocking it with pinpoint accuracy. She dodged an arrow as it flew over her head, scratching one of her pointy ears. "Geez, these guys are serious," Batgirl said. "I agree. They might be members of a formal organization. We gotta put an end to this," Deku agreed, rushing towards his opponent. Deku rushed at great speed with his full cowling, appearing in front of the last member of the gang. He reeled back his left fist and landed a devastating punch to the gang member's gut. As the gang member was sent reeling back, Deku came up with an idea. "Get them together, don't give them an inch to wiggle out," Deku instructed. "You got it, Deku," the girls replied with a smile. Wonder Woman and Zatanna teamed up to push back the speedy gang member, while Zatanna turned the floor slippery for their opponent while Wonder Woman tackled him with her shield. Supergirl and Power Girl caught the large member by his arms and pulled him back. The two Kryptonians easily threw the large man back with their combined strength. They were so strong that the big man was sent back along with the shortest member. Batgirl and Bumblebee fired at the archer of the group. They kept him from firing a single arrow and gave Bumblebee the time to shrink down to her small size. She flew through the swarm of arrows and batarangs, arriving at the front of the archer. Bumblebee then fired her stingers at the archer, sending him tumbling to the rest of the gang members. Once the gang members were all together, Green Lantern used her ring to make a lasso construction. She wrapped her will-fueled construct around the gang members, tying them up in a tight bind. "I got them," Green Lantern said as the other Titans gathered around her. "A lasso, I see what you did there," Wonder Woman said in agreement. "Let's see them get out of a will construct like that," Deku said. However, just as Deku said those words, one of the gang members lifted his right arm. From his hand came a green glow which formed into a green energy axe. The Titans stared in shock at the construct before them, as the weapons sliced the will-constructed lasso. "What the?" Green Lantern asked as her construct dissipated. "Green Lantern, give us some light," Deku said. Green Lantern lifted her arm up and a ball of green light appeared above them. The light illuminated every dark corner of the warehouse. It brought the assumed gang of punks out from hiding. The Titans gasped as they recognized two of the 5 members. Amongst the suspected graffiti painters were both Hal Jordan, the second Green Lantern of Earth, and Barry Allen, the Flash. But behind them there were 3 others that the Titans did not recognize. The tallest one was built like a brick house with 2 massive wings sprouting from his back with tanned skin. He wore green pants, golden armored boots that reached up to his knees, a pair of straps around his chest that connected to an emblem of an eagle head, and his face was covered with a helmet that looked like an eagle's head. Right next to the big man was a far more elegant man. He dressed up in a green suit that made him look like Robin Hood with different shades of green, a white feather on his hat. He had fair skin, blonde hair which matched his goatee while his face was hidden by a domino mask. He held a bow and a quiver full of arrows strapped to his back. And the final man was much younger and shorter than the rest. He had fair skin, a patch of black hair that looked like a sheep's puff of wool with freckles on his face. His suit seemed to be the most basic of the groups, almost as if it were put together at the last minute. He wore a red t-shirt, black pants, running shoes, a pair of blue gloves, and a belt with water bottles and pouches. "Green Lantern? Flash? What are you doing here?" Deku asked. "I would like to know that too. What game are you playing at Lantern?" Green Lantern Jessica Cruz asked. "Oh hey guys, how's it going?" Green Lantern Hal Jordan asked, almost as if they hadn't been fighting against the Titans a few short moments ago. Green Lantern, answer the question. Green Lantern Jessica Cruz demanded. "Yes, why have you two joined up with this gang of ruffians to deface the city?" Wonder Woman demanded. "Ruffians? No, we are not ruffians. We're the good guys." Flash replied. "You are?" Zatanna asked. "We are the newest hero team this city has. We're the Invinci Bros." Green Lantern Hal Jordan exclaimed. Green Lantern Hal Jordan, Flash, and the other 3 boys posed in an action entrance. However, the Titans were more confused than ever. "What?" Supergirl asked. "You guys better explain this a little more than that," Batgirl suggested. "Well, remember how you guys said that I wasn't part of the team? Well, I met up with Flash the other day and we decided to start our own team of superheroes." Green Lantern Hal Jordan explained. "These are my teammates, or bros. You already know Flash." "Hey, you guys," Flash said, waving his hand with his super speed. "Nice counter with the shield, by the way." "Thank you, Flash," Wonder Woman replied. "The archer is Green Arrow," Green Lantern Hal Jordan said, gesturing to the Emerald Archer. "You give them too much credit, Flash. We could have taken them down easily." Green Arrow scoffed. "There's something about that snobbish tone of his that I recognize," Zatanna muttered. "This big guy here is Hawkman, a resident muscle," Green Lantern Hal Jordan said, pointing to the big man. Hawkman grunted while glaring at the Titans. "I can vouch for that," Power Girl remarks. "He doesn't seem to be one for much talking," Bumblebee added. "And this fella here is what did you say your hero name was?" Green Lantern Hal Jordan asked the younger hero. Tempest, the younger hero whispered. The Water Master of. He's Aqualad, Master of Water. Green Lantern Hal Jordan said. Well, at least it's a cool name, the now named Aqualad said. And together we are the Invincible Few, the Invinci Bros. Green Lantern Hal Jordan said as he and the others made the same heroic pose. The Titans were understandably confused at the development in front of them. The mostly all-female team of heroes was not unknowing to the fact that other hero teams were around, but they didn't know that they would meet one so soon. Led by Hal of all things. There had been several chance meetings in which Hal had gotten in the way, so having him as part of a superhero team that hadn't kicked him out was surprising. The Invincible Bros? Wonder Woman asked. Was the dude squad taken? Supergirl laughed. No, we would never call ourselves in such a crude manner. Green Arrow snapped. Our team has class. Our nom de guerre strikes fear into the hearts of criminals, like daggers that plunge into our bleeding hearts. Most of the Titans looked at Green Arrow with curiosity, while the others in confusion. But one amongst the team recognized that trademark style. Zatanna's eyes snapped wide. She only knew one person that could say those things with a straight face. Oh, you must be kidding, Zatanna muttered, groaning. Of course he would be here. You recognize him? Deku asked. Of course he is the insufferable Oliver Queen, Zatanna said, causing Green Arrow to gasp in horror. A complete diva even out of the stage, that supposed elegant attitude and that distracting overuse of the makeup. You're Zatara, my arch-nemesis, Green Arrow said defiantly. Heh, he's got you there, Zatanna. Power Girl chuckled next to Supergirl. However, this revelation made Deku realize that it couldn't be a coincidence. He recognized the man that Zatanna was talking about. He was an actor set to inherit his family's business after he graduated college if all went well. But another thought came into his mind. 3 of the members of this team were students at Metropolis High, then the others had to as well. He narrowed his eyes at the 2 final members, Hawkman and Aqualad. He then recognized the smaller teen. Bumblebee, isn't that Garth? Deku asked, pointing to Aqualad. Yeah, that is him, Bumblebee said, waving at him. Hey Garth. Hey Karen, Aqualad waved back. Dude's secret identity. Green Lantern Hal Jordan snapped. Hal, we know who you guys are, Deku protested. You know us. Yeah, but you don't know all the identities of our G group. Green Lantern Hal Jordan said. However, Hal's smugness didn't last long. Supergirl and Power Girl quickly used their X-ray visions to look at all the heroes on the Invinci Bros team. Their faces became visible to the 2 Kryptonians. It all happened in the blink of an eye, but the 2 blondes knew who their heroic rivals now were. Hal Jordan, Barry Allen. Supergirl began. Oliver Queen, Carter Hall, Power Girl added, and Garth Bernstein, the 2 Kryptonians said at once. Green Lantern Hal Jordan was left in shock with the ease in which the 2 powerhouses of the Titans unveiled his team. Well, at least we're amongst friends, Flash said. So what brought you guys here? We're on the lookout for the group that has been tagging the city with their mark, Wonder Woman explained. Their vile acts of vandalism will not go unpunished. Awesome, we are looking into the same thing, our very own bust, Flash said. Or at least it was until you show stealers showed up. Green Arrow scoffed. We were about to strike when you attempted to steal the spotlight. Not like this would be the first time you'd attempt that, Zatara. Zatanna decided to give a hearty laugh at Green Arrow's jab. It isn't my fault that the people prefer my gifts for magic over your overplayed and bland portrayal of Romeo. Zatanna countered with a jab of her own. What would you prefer, darling? A magical evening, or a reenactment of Romeo and Juliet for the millionth time? Well, I haven't ever been to a play before, so, Deku replied. Aha, see? Even your boy toy agrees that my talents are superior, Green Arrow said, getting in Zatanna's face. Though how you keep him around is less of a mystery, Zatanna growled at Green Arrow. She hated what he was insinuating, and how he was stepping on their relationship with that snobbish tone of his. Deku got between Zatanna and Green Arrow. He of course was doing it to protect Zatanna's honor, but he also knew that there was little that he could do if his lover decided to utter a few magic words. If he could keep the peace, he would do all he could. Hey, back off, Robin Hood, Supergirl snapped, getting Green Arrow to back off. Yeah, only we can tease Greenie like that, Power Girl added. Now if you'll excuse us, we got a group of bad guys to capture. Hawkman got right in front of the 2 Kryptonians with an intimidating growl. He was playing his part as the team muscle quite well. He kept his spiked mace in hand, ready to strike at either of the blondes. From what Deku could see, the big man was a more experienced warrior than the rest of the Invinci Bros. Hawkman's posture was one that showed his many years of training and battle. Enough, violence won't solve anything, Green Lantern said, trying to keep the peace. We are all just trying to do the right thing. Now it was Green Lantern Hal Jordan's turn to step up. Oh yeah, well we are trying to do it better, Green Lantern Hal Jordan retorted, stepping in. But not in the way that most would have preferred. Better? What makes you say that? Zatanna snapped. We've been working as a team for a lot longer than you guys. But we arrived here before you. Therefore, we are the better team, Green Arrow said. We don't need to start a fight. We just want to get this gang before they do something in the city, Deku said, but his plea fell on deaf ears. We'll find them and bring them to justice, and we'll bring them down before you, Power Girl added. That last added sentence sparked the closest thing that could be to a second confrontation. "Oh yeah, I bet you'll solve the situation, Deku," Green Lantern Hal Jordan replied, with just enough tension in his voice to insinuate something. "What's that supposed to mean?" Bumblebee asked. "I think it's pretty obvious that our green friend has lost some of his manliness by hanging around you girls all the time. As much as I would love to be in his position, I can see that he's a bit distracted from what a bro should be," Green Lantern Hal Jordan said. That comment was not taken in the best way possible. En grado hijo de Green Lantern Jessica Cruz began before Deku pulled her back. That was uncalled for, Hal. Deku snapped as he struggled to hold back the rest of the Titans. "Yeah, dude, that sounded a bit mean," Flash said to the side. "I'll have you know that Deku is a vital part and great founding member of the Titans," Wonder Woman exclaimed. "His skills have been invaluable and they haven't dulled in the slightest." "Then prove it. If we can solve this before you guys, you will admit that we are the better team of superheroes." And Deku switches over to our team, Green Lantern Hal Jordan said. "Wait, what?" Deku asked incredulously. "And what do we get if you lose?" Supergirl asked. "Do you guys wear dresses or something? Because it seems we're the ones that don't get anything from winning this bet." Power Girl added, "Fine, if we lose we shall 'em." Green Arrow began. "Invite you to the best donuts in Metropolis and we'll do your homework for a week. That sound fair?" Aqualad suggested. "It hardly feels like an even and fair trade," Zatanna retorted. "Of course you'd back down from a challenge," Green Lantern Hal Jordan said. "Step aside, ladies, the boys will handle it from here." "Like heck you will," the Titans save for Deku said at the same time. With that being said, both hero teams rushed out of the warehouse. The two teams wanted to find the gang of graffiti artists to prove that their methods were better, but unlike the Invinci Bros, the Titans were in it to win it. Hell hath no fury than a group of women protecting the person that they loved. The two teams rushed out into the streets. Those that could fly took to the skies as the others ran side by side. Bumblebee and Flash figured out the location of the next tag, and the two teams rushed to meet it. This was a matter of honor, and a matter of shoving it in the other team's face. They were neck to neck with Green Lantern Hal Jordan being in the lead with Wonder Woman and Deku. "Give it up, ladies, we bros will take the win on this one," Green Lantern Hal Jordan said with his usual smugness. "We have the fastest man alive on our side." Flash passed the lead, leaving a trail of lightning and a red blur behind him. However, as soon as he passed by the teams, his stomach growled like a lion. He slid to a halt before running back past the heroes. "It seems like your fastest man alive also has the fastest metabolism," Green Lantern Jessica Cruz countered. Flash had stopped by a hot dog cart and had just ordered 3 dozen hot dogs with mustard and coleslaw. "Sorry guys, but I had to skip breakfast," Flash said, munching on a hot dog as the owner of the cart prepared the other hot dogs. "I'll catch up to you in a second." The team kept on racing each other in an attempt of getting to the next spot first. However, each team wasn't against some rough housing or distraction tactics. Green Arrow fired one of his arrows, sticking to Zatanna's cape. Zatanna was stopped by the arrow. She growled at the Green Archer. She snapped her fingers, creating a portal in front of him. Green Arrow went through the portal and landed in the middle of a portable bathroom. "Erg, this is disgusting!" Green Arrow screamed in utter disgust. Supergirl and Power Girl flew past Hawkman, ruffling his feathers. Hawkman growled in fury before flying up into the sky. He flew amongst the clouds before dropping down on top of the two blonde Kryptonians. He smirked as he flew past them, only for a bright yellow light to appear in front of him. "Bye-bye, Birdman," Bumblebee taunted. Hawkman growled in anger, causing Bumblebee to flee in fear. Back with the group, Green Lantern Hal Jordan created a will construct of a trampoline and bounced himself all the way ahead of the group. Green Lantern Jessica Cruz did the same thing, catching up to the other member of the Corps. "You're not getting ahead from us, Green Lantern." Green Lantern Jessica Cruz said. Yeah, we will. By the way, we gotta talk about the name thing," Green Lantern Hal Jordan said. "Like I get it. Who wouldn't want to be named like someone as awesome as me? But it gets confusing after a while. We are both members of the Green Lantern Corps. We both have to use the same alias." Green Lantern Jessica Cruz replied, creating a treadmill construct, trapping Hal in it. Green Lantern Hal Jordan created a pole vault stick and freed himself from the trap. "I mean, you could go as Greenette Lantern, or Emerald, or Green Babe," Green Lantern Hal Jordan suggested, much to the cringe of Green Lantern Jessica Cruz. Just then Deku arrived next to the two lanterns. "Guys, listen, there is no need to fight, we can stop the bad guys together," Deku said, acting as a peacekeeper. "Don't worry man, you'll be rolling with the bros in no time. We'll toughen you up and it'll be smooth sailing from then on," Green Lantern Hal Jordan said. Deku couldn't help but feel a drop of sweat fall down on his forehead. He just didn't know how to feel about Green Lantern Hal Jordan. It was as though every time he found a good quality to him, there was always one or two things that made the male lantern unlikable. "Over our dead bodies," Green Lantern Jessica Cruz snapped as they got closer to their destination. Deku sighed. He wasn't looking forward to these kinds of interactions. He knew that heroes didn't always see eye to eye, but this was going to give him gray hairs before he even looked 30. He figured the best he could do at the moment was to get to the gang before the two hero teams murdered each other. He channeled more of One for All and zoomed past the two lanterns. He jumped and hopped to the street that was the next target of the new gang. Deku landed on the street, but he wasn't alone. Well, it seems that it's up to me to bring victory to my team," Aqualad said, coming out from across the street from Deku. Deku narrowed his eyes. He didn't know the powers and abilities that Aqualad had, but he could always fall back on his best weapon, his analytical mind. This doesn't need to be a competition, Aqualad. We bring these taggers to justice and everyone goes home happy, Deku said, keeping his eyes on the shorter boy. Sorry, Deku, but the Invinci Bros do not back down, Aqualad said, opening one of his bottle caps. Aqualad bended the water out of the bottle. He used his power to turn the water into a spinning orb of water. He flung the water ball at Deku, but the more experienced hero fired an attack of his own. Delaware Smash, Deku called out, firing a blast of condensed air at Aqualad. The attacks clashed with the air blast obliterating the water bullet. Sorry, Aqualad, but you just aren't ready to beat me in a straight match, Deku said. But I am interested in your power. It seems like you could do great things with more practice. Ah, thanks, man. It would have been cooler if we were near the ocean, or a really deep puddle, Aqualad admitted sheepishly. Just then the rest of the two hero teams arrived at the scene. We win! Both teams yelled at the same time. The two groups looked around for any signs of the gang of graffiti artists. But they only saw the other heroes. They were very confused by the lack of criminals. Bumblebee, are you sure this is where the graffiti artists are meant to be? Wonder Woman asked. Yeah, I can't see anyone else, Power Girl added. The calculations are correct. The next target of the graffiti artist should be here, Bumblebee said, pulling out her armor's computer. They should be in this alley, she added, pointing to the alley between the two teams. The two hero teams looked at the alley and wondered what would happen. Well, it seems like the perfect place for a stakeout, Deku said before almost everyone jumped into the narrow alley in hopes of finding the criminals before the others. Deku rolled his eyes as the two hero groups struggled. The rest of the heroes were fighting to get into the alley. They were like a multitude of shoppers, trying to get into a store with a 90% discount. Each one was pushing, elbowing, and biting the others to get deeper into the alley. Let us pass, Wonder Woman demanded. No way, we got here before you. Green Lantern Hal Jordan replied. You wish, Green Lantern Jessica Cruz snapped. You shall not take away our rightful victory understudies. Green Arrow said. Oh, go cry me a river, Arrow, Zatanna snapped. Gee guys, Deku called out. Can you see the graffiti artist at least? The two hero groups looked at the dead end of the alley, expecting to see one or two punks with spray cans. But they were met with an empty dead-end alley. They aren't in here, Batgirl said. Yeah, we must have gotten here before TM, Flash added. Just then the brick wall before the two hero teams began to glow. What's going on in there? Deku asked as he tried using float to get a better look inside the alley. The light began to morph and change into a strange symbol. It looked like a stretched out and with strange markings around it, the same mark that had been appearing all over the city. The strange marking began to glow as a beam of light fired off into the sky. Guys, I don't know if this is right or not, but I don't think that's graffiti, Green Lantern Hal Jordan said, stating the obvious. The two hero teams pulled themselves out of the narrow alley. They looked up in the air as more beams of light shot out from the other markings. What's going on? Deku asked. It would seem the markings are transdimensional energy signatures of some kind, Bumblebee said as she used her instruments to document and analyze the lights. They all seem to be conversing on a singular point, Flash said, looking at the beams of light. I think they are all going to Grand Park in the middle of the city. Then that's where we should GGO, Deku said. Deku is right. We must get to the bottom of this. Titans together. Wonder Woman called out as all the Titans followed her towards the park. The Invinci Bros stood there for a second or two. Hey, you guys aren't leaving us behind. We're going too. Green Lantern Hal Jordan called out. Invinci Bros, go bros. The Invinci Bros rushed behind the Titans, hoping to show that they were not cut out of the action. The two teams arrived at Grand Park where all the light beams met. The clouds gathered at the center of the Union of Light. The energy in the clouds began to swirl into a portal. What's going on? Flash asked. It looks like the symbols were miniature portals that were meant to connect into a more powerful portal, Batgirl assessed. But a portal to where? Green Lantern Jessica Cruz asked. Or a portal that is meant to bring something here, Deku mentioned. The portal opened up above the two hero teams. From within the portal, three figures emerged. The first one was a woman. She had tan skin, blue short hair, and cold icy eyes that would freeze a hardened warrior in his tracks. She wore a black tight bodysuit that covered everything but her hands and her head. Her suit had a silver belt around her waist and a silver V-neck. Supergirl and Power Girl both recognized the woman before them. She looks familiar, Power Girl said. We've seen her before. Warsa, Supergirl said, remembering the woman. The second figure stepped out into view. This time it was a large man with pale skin, a shaved-off head, and a handlebar mustache and beard. He wore a black bodysuit much like Ursa's, only he had armored shoulder pads and a robotic arm. His face looked bored as though he was waiting for something to happen. Hey, I know that guy. That's Non. Power Girl gasped. Oh, no, Supergirl said, seeing the man as well. Supergirl, Power Girl, who are these people? Deku asked. They are two of the biggest war criminals in Krypton's history, Supergirl said, growling. They helped start a coup of the Council in the final days of Krypton, but they are only second to their boss, Power Girl added, tightening her fists. The man that led the coup, and was one of the reasons Krypton fell apart. As soon as Power Girl said those words, the third figure arrived. He was a man with clear skin, black hair combed all the way back, a short black beard and dark deadly eyes. He wore a black bodysuit with silver bracelets, a short red cape that was tied to a chain that held a metal shield with a symbol that resembled a Z. "Is that their leader?" Deku asked. "Yeah," Supergirl replied. Zod. Power Girl added. Zod looked at all the people that had gathered around the park to see the portal. He looked at them as though he was looking at insects. He was imprisoned in the Phantom Zone with his 2 lieutenants to stay in there until they could be judged by a fair trial, Power Girl added. But they were sent there when the planet was tearing itself apart, so very few knew that they were locked in there for all this time, Supergirl said. And our mom was the one that pushed the button that sent them there. The 3 Kryptonian criminals landed on the ground and glared at all that were present. "You will all kneel before Zod," he said with an indifferent tone. The 2 hero teams looked at the 3 Kryptonians, unsure of how to face them. The idea that 3 dangerous aliens with all the powers of Superman, Supergirl and Power Girl was a scary one. And if what both Supergirl and Power Girl were saying was true, then these guys were far more dangerous than the villains they had faced. "Alright, how are we going to face off those 3 Kryptonian war criminals?" Zatanna asked. "They have all the powers that every Kryptonian has while under a yellow sun, and all their weaknesses," Wonder Woman replied. "If that's the case, we need to," Deku began. "Let's go, guys. No need to fear, the Invinci Bros are here," Green Lantern Hal Jordan called out. "Go, bros!" The Invinci Bros all let out their battle cry. The all-male team of heroes rushed to face off against the 3 invading Kryptonians. The 3 Kryptonians looked at the young heroes with a bored expression. "Who are these pests that dare stand against Zod?" Zod asked as the Invinci Bros charged against them. "Permission to deal with them, General?" Ursa asked. "I am in desperate need of a workout. Do what you please, Ursa," Zod replied with an uninterested tone. Ursa turned to face the young male heroes and smiled. She jumped at them with the speed of a speeding bullet. She reeled back both of her hands and let out a deafening thunderclap. Her attack sent the Invinci Bros flying back. Green Lantern was the first one to get back up. He created a large will hammer construct from his ring and swung it at Ursa. Ursa lifted her right hand and caught the hammer with apparent ease but was slowly being pushed back. She tightened her hold on the hammer as the strain began to show on her face. "Come on, honey. No need to get violent. How about you and I go for a romantic dinner after this?" Green Lantern Hal Jordan said with a smug face. "As much as I'd like to bring back Krypton, I prefer a mate that is worthy of me." Ursa snapped, kicking Green Lantern Hal Jordan back with her foot. Flash ran into the fight. He ran in circles underneath the female blue-haired Kryptonian. His speed caused a twister to swallow Ursa, blinding her and striking her with small pieces of debris. Ursa covered her eyes and face before she started spinning in the opposite direction in which the Flash was running. She spun so fast that she created her very own twister, trapping the Flash in it. Ursa grabbed hold of the speedster and flung him away, landing next to Green Lantern Hal Jordan. Green Arrow was next to attack. He pulled out a handful of arrows from his quiver and fired them at Ursa. All the arrows he fired were aimed at her chest, and usually they would have struck their target. However, Ursa caught them as easily as it was to catch a paper plane. "Did you really think that these primitive weapons would be enough to strike me?" Ursa asked with a mocking tone. "A regular one? No, but an explosive one." Green Arrow trailed off. Ursa looked at the arrows in her hand just as a couple of them beeped. The arrows exploded in front of Ursa's face. The explosive arrows made Ursa go backwards with a thick cloud of smoke on her face. Ursa growled in anger. Her eyes glowed bright red as she glared at Green Arrow. Oops," Green Lantern muttered just as Ursa fired her heat vision at him. Green Arrow ran away as the blast of heat vision burnt a path behind him. He jumped into the pile where Green Lantern Hal Jordan and Flash laid down on. A wild battle cry caught Ursa's attention. Ursa looked up to see Hawkman coming down at her with his mace. She drifted back, dodging the attack. "Thanagarians are so annoying," Ursa growled as Hawkman continued on attacking her. Hawkman swung his mace with a wild rage, using his massive wings to keep up with the Kryptonian. He kept his distance, but at the same time he led the war criminal to the area that he was cornering her. When he thought that he had an opening, he made his move. Hawkman went in and swung his mace at Ursa's head, but she caught it. "You aren't very good with this little toy, are you?" Ursa asked mockingly. Hawkman pulled his mace away from Ursa, but the Kryptonian's hold was tight. Ursa swung Hawkman into the ground. Hawkman fell to the ground. He was unable to stop his fall with his wings. He prepared himself to hit the ground. Aqualad used his water to catch him, but Hawkman was too big for him to catch him. In a matter of minutes, the Invinci Bros had been defeated by a single Kryptonian criminal. The 5 heroic boys were groaning in pain as Ursa returned to her general and her fellow lieutenant. The Titans went up to the downed heroes and helped them up back to their feet. They kept their eyes on Zod and his 2 allies while they thought of what they could do to stop them. "How are we going to beat them? One of them just took down the entire team of the Invinci Bros on her own," Bumblebee asked. "And I doubt that we'll get better odds against all 3 of them." Batgirl added, "We can't give up. There must be something that we can do to stop them." Green Lantern Jessica Cruz said. "Enough of this foolishness," Zod called out. The Titans looked at the Kryptonian general as he made his demands. "I demand that you bring me the heir of the House of El," Zod demanded. "Bring me the son of Jor-El." The Titans all gasped in shock. The Kryptonians had a direct target and it was the greatest hero of the city. The problem now was getting Superman here and figuring out what was his history with these three war criminals. Supergirl, has Superman ever faced these three? Deku asked. He may have mentioned it, Supergirl said, scratching the back of her head, but I wasn't paying much attention to him back then. Call him and tell him to come here before things get ugly, Wonder Woman instructed. Supergirl did as Wonder Woman asked. She pulled out her phone and dialed Superman's number. She waited as the call rang. However, she heard the one thing that she didn't want to hear at that moment. The number you dialed is currently outside the solar system and is unable to take your call at this time. Please leave a message after the beep. Supergirl and the rest of the Titans felt their jaws hit the ground. They wouldn't be able to get Superman until it was too late, not to mention that the three criminals weren't going to wait. Are you serious, Cal? We have a big Zod problem? Come straight back once you hear this, Supergirl snapped, ending the call. Looks like we're on our own, Power Girl added. If the son of Jor-El won't come to me willingly, then we will have to make him do so, Zod said, snapping his fingers. Ursa and Non spotted a large bus filled with people. They picked up the large vehicle from the back and the front. The lieutenants pressed their hands against the bus, crushing it with their super strength. But it seemed like they were taking more effort in doing so. The people inside the bus screamed in terror. We can't wait for Superman, Deku snapped. Those people are in danger. We'll have to battle them on our own, Wonder Woman said. Take a good look at them. They appear to be weakened. They must still be recovering their strength after escaping the Phantom Zone, Supergirl theorized. Which means we could win this, but we'll need help, Deku said, turning to the Iron Vinci Bros. Guys, we'll need your help to stop Zod and his allies before they recover their full power and overpower us. Whoa, you guys seriously want to get our butts kicked again? Green Lantern Hal Jordan asked. One of them defeated us with ease, all three of them will wipe the floor with us. But this time we have a plan, Wonder Woman said. Everyone pair up, Batgirl, you and Flash keep Ursa busy. You got it, Wonder Woman, Batgirl replied. She won't know what hit her, Flash said with a salute. Zatanna, you and Green Arrow keep non-distracted. Power Girl, give them as much support as you can, Deku instructed. And keep them from killing each other. That I can DDO, Power Girl picking up both Zatanna and Green Arrow. Fine, I'll play nice with the prima donna. Zatanna sighed. This is not my idea of a fun evening, you know? Green Arrow countered. Green Lantern, you and Green Lantern, stick to crowd control. Get as many civilians out of here. Deku instructed. We need to keep the villains contained. You got it, Deku. Green Lantern Jessica Cruz said. Hey, who died and made them boss? Green Lantern asked. I'm the leader of the Invinci Bros, man. Green Lantern Jessica Cruz made a hand construct. She pulled Green Lantern Hal Jordan up by the ear. Bumblebee, you and Hawkman go to the planetarium and get the chunk of kryptonite that's on display. Wonder Woman instructed. Even if they are weak, they'll regain their powers with the sun. We've got to weaken them to defeat them. You got it, Wonder Woman, Bumblebee said. Hawkman grunted, wishing that he could be part of the battle, but he nodded in agreement before taking off with Bumblebee right behind him. What about us three, Wonder Woman? Supergirl asked. What about me? Aqualad asked, assuring the remaining heroes that he was there. Sorry. What about us four? Supergirl asked once more. We'll keep Zod's attention, Deku replied, kicking a fire hydrant open. Oh yeah. I can work with this, Aqualad said as he commanded the water coming from the hydrant. The heroes got to work. They got into their teams and rushed at their different targets. Batgirl and Flash quickly got to work, getting Ursa's attention. Batgirl threw a batarang at the female Kryptonian, hitting her in the back. Ursa looked back in rage at the ones that threw them. Hey, Ursa, where did you get that uniform? Did you get it from a trash bag? Batgirl taunted the Kryptonian female. Grr, I'll have you know that this is a high Kryptonian war uniform, Ursa snapped. Then I guess it matches the weird haircut. Flash added. That's it, Ursa snapped, releasing the bus she was holding. Just as the bus was going to fall to the ground, the two Green Lanterns caught the bus and placed the bus away. They used their rings to create hands and platforms to move the civilians away from the crossfire. Green Lantern Jessica Cruz created a trampoline, blocking the falling debris of the fight, while Green Lantern Hal Jordan created a sweeper construct to move some of the broken cars out of the way for the civilians to run out of the way. Ursa flew after the two heroes with red eyes. She fired her heat vision at the heroes, hoping to torch them completely. She struck several cars, slicing them in half. She missed the two heroes. She then fired at the street, hoping to cut him off, but the fastest man alive kept a step ahead of her. The Flash took off at his full speed, dodging the red beams of death. He moved left and right, keeping the distance between the heroes and the villainous. Batgirl swung another batarang at the Kryptonian's eyes. The batarang exploded in her face. But Batgirl didn't stop at one. She threw more and more batarangs at Ursa, knocking her off balance and down to the ground. Stand still and fight like a warrior, Ursa cried out, holding her eyes in pain. I don't know, this seems to be working for us, Batgirl said. Yeah, maybe you should do something else, Flash added, sidestepping as the Kryptonian jumped at them with a fist reeled back. Ursa passed the two heroes, missing them thanks to the Flash's super speed. I don't think we can get her any angrier than that. I just hope that the guys can get the kryptonite before she gets her full strength back, Batgirl said. Back with Non in the second team, the situation wasn't going as expected. Power Girl punched Non down to the ground, before pinning him down there. The two Kryptonians were pushing against each other to see who was stronger. You know, a part of me always wanted to give you clowns a beating, Power Girl said. The bad news for you guys. I'm that part, she added, kicking Non in the stomach. Non halted himself before growling at Power Girl. He held his stomach before cracking his knuckles. But before he could throw a punch, a puff of violet-colored smoke cut him off. Non looked at it with confusion. From the smoke came Green Arrow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's main event. A joint act from the magnificent and charming Green Arrow. Green Arrow introduced himself with a bow. Zatanna cleared her throat, reminding the Emerald Archer that she was there. And Zatanna, Green Arrow said with an eye roll. Power Girl and Non looked at the two other heroes with confusion. They were both expecting a fistfight that could show the power of both sides. They weren't expecting a magic show with theatrics. What is all this? Power Girl asked. Our plan, Zatanna said, snapping her fingers. From a puff of smoke came a large wardrobe. Green Arrow entered the wardrobe with a smile before Zatanna closed the lid with him inside it. Zatanna clapped her hands, causing a bunch of arrows to appear around the wardrobe. She then snapped her fingers, giving the arrows the signal to strike at the heavy wooden wardrobe. Oh, the humanity, Green Arrow called out. Non for some reason began clapping like a child that had just been given candy. You've got to be kidding me. Power Girl muttered. This was your plan. Distracting isn't the same as pummeling each other to death, honey. Sometimes all you need is a little show. Zatanna whispered to her friend as she made more arrows to strike at the wardrobe. Plus, I get a little satisfaction from this. Why? Green Arrow cried out, much to the enjoyment of Non. Meanwhile, Deku, Wonder Woman, Supergirl and Aqualad faced off against General Zod. Deku called upon One for All as lightning crackled around his body. He jumped in with a punch at the general. Zod jumped back, avoiding the attack as Deku made a hole on the ground. Wonder Woman followed through with her shield drawn. She swatted her shield at Zod, pushing him back to the ground. Zod caught the shield, but missed the sight of Deku rushing behind him. Deku spun his legs under the Kryptonian general, causing him to take a knee. Zod snapped in rage. He would not be made to bow by these insects. He punched Wonder Woman's shield, sending her back before kicking Deku away from him. Wonder Woman moved on to the next phase of the plan. She pulled out her lasso of truth and tied up Zod's arm. She pulled Zod with all her strength. Supergirl came in and punched Zod in the back, sending him down to the ground. Aqualad came in with his torrent of water. He channeled it into a large water snake. He made the water snake swallow Zod before spitting him out to where Deku and Supergirl were waiting for him. Deku and Supergirl reeled back their fists. Deku called upon 50% of One for All to unleash a powerful strike at the Kryptonian general. Full cowling One for All 50% Detroit smash. Deku called out as his fist and Supergirl's connected with Zod's face. Zod's face recoiled in pain, but that didn't stop him. He grabbed hold of both Deku and Supergirl's faces and slammed them into the ground with a big crater under them. You will not make a fool out of Zod, Zod said before spotting the crest of the House of El on Supergirl's costume. Since the son of Jor-El isn't here, then I guess I'll take my frustrations out on the daughter of the one that put me in the Phantom Zone. Wonder Woman rushed at Zod, tackling him away with her shield. Zod slid to a stop before glaring at Wonder Woman. You will not hurt my friends, Wonder Woman said, unsheathing her sword. Deku and Supergirl got back up, grunting in pain from the slam. I really hope that Bumblebee and Hawkman get here quickly, Supergirl said. We'll just have to keep them busy until then. Deku replied as he called upon his full cowling once more. Deku called forth more power from One for All, causing his eyes to glow bright green and lightning to crackle around his body. He felt his body getting strained, and his muscles aching to the point of being torn apart, but he held his tongue and gritted his teeth. He couldn't hold back anymore. The heroes kept up their battle against the three Kryptonians, but time was running out. The longer the war criminals were out in the day, the quicker their powers would get back to their full power. The three teams kept on fighting their own way. Batgirl and Flash ran circles around Ursa, making her angrier by the second. Non sat on the ground, clapping like a child as Zatanna pierced Green Arrow with more of his own arrows, much to Power Girl's cringe. While Deku, Wonder Woman, Supergirl and Aqualad kept Zod at bay with a combination of quick attacks and water blasts to the face. Zod's face twisted in anger as the heroes kept pushing him and his underlings into a corner. Enough, Zod snapped. Zod clapped his hands, sending back the heroes. Deku skidded to a halt before using his new increased power to zoom past Zod. He appeared behind the Kryptonian criminal with his leg reeled back. Before Zod could react, the green-haired hero kicked him across the face, making him spit out blood. Deku didn't stop there. He uppercutted the Kryptonian, sending Zod up into the air with a powerful blast of air behind him. Supergirl appeared behind Zod and tackled him from the back. She sent him tumbling into his comrades with a loud boom. The three Kryptonians stood back up in anger. You will all pay for this, Zod threatened with murder in his eyes. You will all kneel before Zod. Wow, this guy has a fetish for kneeling, doesn't he? Batgirl muttered. Yeah, one would think that he'd change his name to Neil, Flash added. The heroes huddled up together as the portal above the three Kryptonians began to close. Zod looked up and gave the two hero teams a dark, sinister smile. It would seem that your luck has finally run out, Zod said. Then it's a good thing we make our own luck. Everyone looked up to the sky. Bumblebee and Hawkman were above the two groups. In the hand of Hawkman was the large chunk of kryptonite that they had been sent to recover. The cavalry had arrived right on time. Let him have it, Hawkman, Bumblebee said. Say your prayers, evildoers, Hawkman replied. Hawkman threw the large piece of kryptonite into the air. He then swung his mace, splitting the space rock into 3 chunks. The 3 pieces struck the Kryptonian criminals. As soon as the space rocks embedded themselves into the war criminals, Zod and his followers dropped to the ground, as they felt their strength failing them. Green Lantern, keep the portal open, Deku called out. We're sending them back to the Phantom Zone? You got it, Kirito, Green Lantern Jessica Cruz replied, creating a will-construct rope and hook. Green Lantern, give me a hand. Oh yeah, my time to shine, Green Lantern Hal Jordan called out as he made his own will-construct. The 2 lanterns swung their respective hooks into the portal. They pulled the corners of the portal, keeping it from closing. Comrades, we must send them back into the portal, Wonder Woman said. Batgirl flung her batarangs at Ursa. Her weapon struck the Kryptonian before they exploded, sending her into the air and putting Ursa in the position that Flash needed. The Flash then swooped in and spun his arms in a circular motion, creating mini tornadoes from his arms. He sent the blast of air directly at Ursa, pushing her into the portal. Non tried to attack the heroes before they could do anything to him, but he was cut off from his charge. Power Girl blew a cold blast of air at Non, pushing him back. She was no good near kryptonite, but she could still do the little stuff from a safe distance. Green Arrow pulled out 4 arrows and fired them at Non. The arrows that he fired turned into a large net, wrapping the Kryptonian. Zatanna chanted a spell, empowering the bindings by making them unbreakable. She then channeled her magic, sending him flying up into the portal. This will not stop me, Zod said, grabbing hold of the chunk of kryptonite. Zod pulled out the piece of space rock from his body. I will conquer this planet and make you all kneel before Zod, Zod bellowed in rage. But for now I will not return to that prison. Zod jumped high in the air. He pulled all the power he still had into flying as far from the heroes as he could. But he then felt a tug on his legs. He looked down and saw a black tendril of energy and the golden lasso of truth wrapped around his ankles. Deku and Wonder Woman had stopped his escape. They pulled at the war criminal with all they had, preventing his escape. You won't get away, Deku said as he and Wonder Woman rushed at the Kryptonian. We won't let you, Wonder Woman added. Too bad for you, Zod countered, firing his heat vision at the 2 heroes. Zod cannot be contained. Deku and Wonder Woman dodged the attack, getting a couple of their hairs sliced. Zod fired again, hitting Wonder Woman in the shoulder. Deku's eyes widened. Rage boiled inside him. He looked at the Kryptonian general. He would not let him get away with this. Deku called upon One for All once more, but this time he did it to its full capacity. One for all, full cowling, Deku called out as the power coursed through his whole body. He blinked from sight before appearing behind Zod. Zod could barely understand what had happened before a fist connected with his face once more. But this wasn't like any punch that he'd expected from a human. He felt how his teeth were gritted against his jaw. His inside cheek was bit by his own teeth, causing him to bleed. Zod felt weightless. He didn't understand why, but the answer appeared before him. From the corner of his eye, he spotted the chunk of kryptonite clasped in Deku's hand. One for all. Detroit smash, Deku called out as Zod was sent flying back down to the earth. Zod fell from the sky, but his body didn't touch the ground. A massive water serpent caught him. Surf's up, Zod, Aqualad called out, commanding the water to send the general back into the portal. No, Zod screamed as he was sucked into the Phantom Zone. With the Kryptonians back in the Phantom Zone, both Green Lanterns released their hold on the portal, allowing it to close down for good. Shortly after that, Supergirl came down with Wonder Woman in her arms and Deku floating down behind them. He had put the chunk of kryptonite away in his belt as soon as he spotted Supergirl. Is everyone okay? Deku asked, feeling his whole body aching to the point of collapse. Heck yeah. We did it, Green Lantern Hal Jordan said as the Invinci Bros cheered in victory. Oh yeah, Supergirl added. That's how it's done. That's great, Deku muttered as the toll of his quirk finally hit him. He fell face first from his use of his quirk at its fullest. Deku, the Titan screamed, rushing to his side. Dude, you okay? Flash asked. Everything hurts, Deku whimpered. The rest of the Titans let out a sigh of relief. They were never going to get used to their friend doing that to himself. He is all right, Wonder Woman said. He has just surpassed his limits once more. He'll be fine in a couple of days, Zatanna said, casting a healing spell over Deku. All the girls smiled at Deku. They knew that he had done all that he needed to save the day. He was officially out of the doghouse. Barbie woke up in her bed with a bit of an annoyed look in her eyes. Her hair was a mess and she found herself in a not-so-great mood. She sighed as she got out of her bed and stretched herself. Her body needed to be limber out of not only necessity but also because it was part of her routine. She pulled her leg backwards before getting on her hands and knees to stretch her back. One of the effects of being turned into a cheetah by an ancient spirit was that she limbered her muscles like one. One more day, and one more sleepless night without my little green bunny. Barbie grunted. Gods, I can't get that picture out of my mind. 2 days had passed since she and Tatsu had witnessed the passionate night event between Izuku, her roommate, and the other girls. Her mind hadn't been able to move on from it. She felt like a kitten that had just gotten a taste for milk and was now starving for more milk. She hated being left out of that night. Today I have to get my car to the shop and then work on that damn project for school with Tatsu, and damn it all, Z. Barbie grunted. The mere thought of the magician took Barbie back to the night. Her eyes were glued to the way Z's large thick ass bounced up and down, rippling like two globes of tight meat. It was hypnotic for her. The way she saw Z shaking her ass made her want to tear off her clothes and pounce on the group and take her mate once more. She was more than ready to bzzzt. Ah, damn this strangling piece of, Barbie snapped. I can't even think naughty thoughts. Just then there was a knocking at her door, knocking her out of her thoughts. Oh gods, Barbie muttered. Oh Barbie, dear roommate, I wanted to let you know that I'll be making breakfast since the cook is out sick. Diana called through the door. Don't worry, I'll treat you to a feast worthy of an Amazon. Would you like some orange juice? Barbie rolled her eyes. If you really wanted to treat me to a feast worthy of an Amazon, you would have invited me to your little orgy, Barbie muttered. Barbie cracked her neck before heading to the bathroom. She took off her pajamas before turning on the tub. She looked at herself in the mirror, checking out her own body. I would have been amazing at that party, Barbie said, hefting her breasts. My darling mate would have been all over me. Bzzz. Barbie jumped from the shock that ran down her spine. I really can't wait to see the day this piece of crap comes off, Barbie snapped. On the other side of the city, in an apartment complex near one of the market districts, Tatsu knelt in front of a window. She took in deep breath after deep breath, trying to clear her mind. Her eyes were closed as she felt the warmth of the sun hit her face. Clear your mind, Tatsu. A warrior must always have a clear sight of things and all that is before them, Tatsu said. As she recalled her mantra, Tatsu's mind quickly snapped back to the sight of what had happened 2 nights ago. She briefly saw Izuku and the other girls. No? She shook her head, pushing back those thoughts. She took a deep breath, getting back to the issue of clearing her mind. She placed her hands on top of her knees. Tatsu wanted to make sure that her whole body was focused on the task. She was not to move a single inch of her legs, just like how Izuku kept his firm no. No, bad Tatsu. Clear your mind, Tatsu. No impure thought shall cross your mind, Tatsu said, shaking her head. I mean, clear your mind. Tatsu closed her eyes once more, focusing only on the moment. She did all in her power to not think or picture anything that wasn't in the moment. She let out a sigh of relief, letting the memory flow away. Tatsu would no longer focus on how Diana, the most amazing woman she knew, screamed such passionate cries as Izuku thrusted. Tatsu's eyes snapped open. Her face was red. She panted as the memory of what she had seen that night plagued her mind. She tried to shake off that memory, but the more she tried to shake it off, the more vivid the memory became. She could recite the events of that night, including the smells and the tastes that made her mouth water just by thinking about it. What is wrong with me? Tatsu asked herself. She walked to her bathroom to splash some water on her face. As the water soaked her face, she tried to figure out why she was thinking like this. She had never felt like this in her whole life. Whenever Tatsu thought of what she had seen, she felt her legs turn into wet noodles. Her stomach was filled with butterflies, her heart skipped a beat, her face became hot, and her nether regions grew wet. I heard of this once, but it cannot be. I am not some deviant that gets turned by just any old show of skin, Tatsu said, reaffirming her standing. Maybe I'm overthinking things. That is right. So I saw my friends, mostly female and one male, involved in some intense activity, naked. Tatsu then felt her face heat up once more after she said that. She suddenly remembered how all the women had embraced their desires and performed coitus with the young air of one for all. She remembered how Izuku showed great strength, skill, and knowledge to withstand the strengths of the different women, one being her physical equal. The sight of his muscles and few scars he had were like a picture of a mighty hero of legend that would. Tatsu then noticed that she was drooling from her mouth. I must find something to keep my attention, Tatsu said, wiping the drool. The project, perfect. I'll focus on finishing it and keep my mind away from the great tool that Izuku Midoriya. Ah! Tatsu plunged her face into the cold waters of her bathroom once more, in an attempt to cool her thoughts. Barbie drove Diana and herself to school, keeping herself focused on the road. Regardless of what her Amazon roommate said, she only replied with a yes or an uh-huh. She didn't want to talk to anyone. She just wanted to go to school, get the day over with, and go back home for a long, warm soak in her tub. Barbie, are you all right? Diana asked as the car parked in the parking lot. I've noticed that you're not in the most cheerful of moods. Is something wrong, if you don't mind me asking? Barbie let out a sigh, killing the engine. No, Diana, I do not mind you asking. I'm just going through some adjustments, Barbie said, keeping the conversation away from the real reason she was tense. I understand getting used to a roommate can be quite a challenge, but you've got nothing to worry about. You can count on me to help you, Diana said, picking up Barbie's hand. I hope that me living with you hasn't caused you any inconvenience. Barbie looked at Diana with confusion at first. She stared at the Amazon's eyes as a light blush appeared on her face. She had never been treated in such a casual manner, like she was nothing more than an equal to the other person. She had only ever been talked to like this by Izuku. No, there hasn't been any inconvenience whatsoever, Barbie replied. I am just wondering what I can do to become a better person, if I get what you people mean. Well, the trick is not to become a better person, but to want to become a better person, Diana explained. Barbie didn't know what to say. She wanted to become a better person because of her mate, but hadn't thought about how to do so. So far, she had stuck to helping out when the girls asked her for help, but that wasn't enough. Barbie needed to step up her game if she was to embrace her mate once more. As your friend, it is my duty to ensure that you are happy, Diana assured, snapping Barbie from her thoughts but got her thinking of other thoughts. Barbie's mind suddenly pictured Diana completely naked, sweaty, with messed up hair, a blushing face and a well-satisfied smile on her face. So, is there anything I can do to help you? Diana asked. Barbie shook her head slightly, keeping her thoughts from unleashing her animal instincts. No, I'm all right. Quite all right even. Barbie replied, putting down Diana's hands with a friendly pat. Oh dearie me, look at the time. Best get to class. Barbie rushed away from the car, leaving the keys in the ignition and Diana with a confused look. Odd, we still have half of an hour before our first class, Diana mentioned, looking at her watch before shrugging. Being early never hurts, I suppose. Tatsu looked down to the floor, keeping her thoughts from becoming too altered that she remembers that night. She felt like a little girl, unable to forget something that an adult would have brushed off. Just calm down, Tatsu. No need to think unnecessary thoughts, Tatsu repeated to herself. However, as Tatsu was trying to get her mind clear of naughty thoughts, she bumped into someone. She fell to her butt along with the one that crashed into her. Tatsu looked up to see who crashed into her, only to see Barbie. Hey, watch it you, Barbie snapped before seeing who it was. Oh, Tatsu. Oh, Barbie, sorry, I didn't see you there, Tatsu replied as they both got back to her feet. I was a little distracted. That's understandable with all the issues that we have to deal with, Barbie said, correcting herself. Or only we know what we are going through. True, we need to assess our project, Tatsu snapped, keeping her mind on the less than savory things she was thinking. Are you two all right? The two girls turned to see their third partner Z standing in front of them. Barbie and Tatsu stared in horror at the woman that was one of the main sources of their current mental state. They couldn't look at the woman without picturing her naked, bent over and getting satisfied by Izuku. Just then there was a snap in front of them. Sorry for that, but you two were staring at me for like 6 minutes, Z explained. Now let's go and get to class. We can focus on the project during the class time. Z walked around them and into the classroom. However, as Z passed them, Barbie and Tatsu were staring at her ass. Their minds drifted back to the time in which they saw her bouncing that ass on top of the man they loved. This is going to be a long class, isn't it? Tatsu asked with a great feeling of doom. I'm afraid so, Barbie replied before they both walked into the classroom. Their class project was all about the scientific applications of the laws of thermodynamics. Each group had to make a project that showed how heat was used to alter, incite, or burn out a controlled substance. At that moment, Z, Barbie, and Tatsu were working on their project which showed the effects of heat in beauty products. They were putting a bit of mascara on a metal tray while holding it over a lit burner. All three girls were observing the effects as it slowly started to smoke. It would seem that our hypothesis that mascara is a strong container of heat is correct, but now we have to show the effects of absorbing all that heat, Tatsu said as they all wrote down what they were observing. I just wish that we didn't have to discard so much of our makeup, Barbie sighed. Agreed, I will never get that shade of red ever again. Z sighed. You were redder than that lipstick, Tatsu muttered before stopping herself. What was that? Z asked. I mean, if this experiment proves successful, you'll be redder than your lipstick, Tatsu replied, covering for herself. Z was confused by what her friend was saying. Are you feeling all right, Tatsu? You seem a bit out of it, Z asked. Oh, I can assure you that Tatsu is perfectly fine. I think that all the strain from school is mucking up her train of thought, Barbie said, covering for Tatsu. Barbie and Tatsu both gave Z a large smile. The magician was more confused than ever. She raised her eyebrow, looking at the two women with a hawk's attention. Barbie and Tatsu could feel the magician's gaze fixed on them. They began to sweat. The heat was rising next to them. Their sweat was dripping down the back of their neck. Their minds ran with possibilities of what the young magician was digging up on them. Fear began to slip into their minds. They wondered if Z had figured out something was wrong with them. Barbie and Tatsu feared that she had found out that they had seen everything the other night. It's probably nothing, Z said. I know that being an awesome girl isn't easy with our lifestyle. Barbie and Tatsu let out a sigh of relief. They felt like they had just dodged a bullet. Now, if only they could keep up the charade for the rest of the school day, they'd be in the clear. Barbie and Tatsu returned to their note-taking, hoping that the rest of the class went on without any form of slip-ups. Should we change the piece for another piece of makeup? Z asked. Yes, I believe we are left with the blush, Barbie said. No need to cock about. Barbie slapped her hand over her mouth as she realized what she had said. She slowly turned to Z with horror in her mind. Z just looked at her with indifference. You seem to use a lot of British sayings, Barbie. I kind of find it intriguing, Z said, shrugging it off. But you might want to be careful that a teacher doesn't hear you or you could be in trouble. Oh yes. I do tend to do so from time to time. It's something that I picked up from my mom back when I was little, Barbie explained. I sometimes do it without thinking. I'll be sure to be more mindful in the future. I'll make sure that she doesn't slip up again. Tatsu added, raising her hand. A simple okay would have sufficed, but it's a good sign to see you both becoming friends, Z said, giving him a thumbs up. Barbie and Tatsu let out another sigh of relief. They felt like they had just aged at least 10 years during those brief exchanges between them and Z. For the rest of the class, the two unintended voyeurs placed mouth covers on their faces. Each time they spoke, their voices were messed up and muffled to keep their slip-ups easier to hide. Z found it odd, but they just replied that it was to keep their makeup from getting messed up. As soon as the bell rang through the school, Barbie and Tatsu rushed out. Those two really are in a weird mood today, Z said to herself. Hold on, is my makeup messed you up? She asked herself, pulling out her compact from her bag. I was doing the same experiments as them. I don't see any smudges or anything. Z smiled at herself in the mirror of her compact. Just then a thought crossed her mind. Wait, Tatsu doesn't wear makeup, Z said, snapping at the door. Barbie and Tatsu were both inside the girls' bathroom, panting like a pair of dogs. That class couldn't have ended fast enough. Barbie panted. I swear that if I said another thing related to that night, I'll bite my tongue. I agree. It seems that I've failed to suppress those memories, Tatsu said, getting Barbie's attention. I do not think I'll be able to calm down and get back to normal. Wait just a moment. Let me see if I get this straight. You are messing up because you can't get those thoughts out of your head? Barbie asked. That is correct. A true warrior should not lust after her fellow heroes, Tatsu said, looking down in shame. Barbie laughed. She shut her eyes as tears of laughter pooled on her eyes. She threw her head back before she held her stomach from all the laughing. After a minute of laughing, Barbie bent forwards while she wiped away her tears. Tatsu grew an annoyed frown on her face. Sorry, I just haven't laughed like that in a long time, Barbie admitted. Do you find my predicament amusing? Tatsu asked, wishing she had Soul Taker. Absolutely, because my problem is the complete opposite, Barbie explained. When I saw my darling green bunny really cutting loose, I felt jealous at how much pleasure the girls were feeling. I wanted to join them, and here you're telling me that you wish to forget it? I'm sorry, but I just find it hilarious. Tatsu didn't know how to react. She couldn't understand how the Titans knew and accepted someone as lewd and animalistic as Barbie. She was aware of the one-night stand that Barbie had with Izuku, which led to their respective punishments. But Tatsu still wanted to know how they could be so lenient with her. You're wondering how I can say those things with a straight face to you, right? Barbie asked. Well, it's because I don't hide who I am. I want something, I go for it. I'm hungry, I eat. I guess you could say that the cheetah spirit and I were destined for each other. I'm trying to hold back those urges, but that hunger of aiming for the top is what I want more than anything. Tatsu stared at Barbie. She never expected to hear those words from her. And that's exactly what makes me feel such an attraction to Izuku. Despite his adorable look and humble nature, he has that same hunger. He may call it an altruistic goal of becoming the #1 hero, but at the end of the day, it is a form of hunger. Barbie explained. The idea of suppressing emotions and feelings like hunger, admiration, and lust is nothing short of childish. They are part of our basic instincts and they fuel us even to this day. That is why I can't wait to get this damn collar off and embrace the man I love and unleash those desires. But then, Tatsu began only to have Barbie put her finger in front of her. You should go crazy with those memories, not repress them, Tatsu, Barbie said. Imagine yourself amidst that event, taking part in it like a real woman. I mean, you do like him as well, right? Tatsu was speechless. She'd never been looked at with such fierce eyes. The idea that Barbie was telling her went against everything that she had been taught. She could admit that Izuku and the Titans were all amazing and true heroes in the making. But she, not once, never ever thought of taking part in such a gathering. She looked at Barbie with hopes of giving her a different answer than the one she knew she had on the tip of her tongue. Just then the door opened up and Kara and Galatea entered the bathroom. Barbie and Tatsu froze at their entrance. I can't believe you forgot about the homework, Kara said. Now we have to do double homework to make up for it. Me? You're the one that signed us up for that class. We need to get a good grade before we get to go to summer school, Galatea replied. The two blondes then looked at Barbie and Tatsu in the bathroom. They wondered what those two were doing in the bathroom. They looked like they were in the middle of an argument. Did we interrupt something? Galatea asked. Oh no, we weren't talking about anything important. Just the colors of next fall, Barbie said, hoping to dissuade the blondes. Really? Didn't know you were such a fashionable person, Tatsu, Kara said. You seem more the practical type like MME. Well, I am trying to branch out a bit, Tatsu replied. The two blondes were not entirely sure about the answer. Their powers allowed them to pick up certain things that didn't add up. Kara and Galatea could tell that the heart rates of both Barbie and Tatsu were higher than expected. They could tell that there had been a form of argument, not violent, but an argument of some kind. Are you sure you guys are all right? Galatea asked. Oh, definitely, Tatsu replied, trying to avoid eye contact with either of the blondes. We are getting to become a good pair of friends, Barbie added, also keeping her eyes away from the two Kryptonians. What neither Kara nor Galatea knew was that Barbie and Tatsu weren't looking at them like they were at the moment. Barbie and Tatsu were seeing the two Kryptonians like they had seen them as they were that night. In their eyes, Kara and Galatea were both naked as the day they were born with sweat covering their bodies, red blushing cheeks and their well-satisfied faces. Those were the faces that Barbie and Tatsu weren't trying to look at. I don't see you guys really getting along, but whatever works for you, Kara said. Yes, well, I'd like to stay and chat, but we both have classes to go to, Barbie said, pulling Tatsu out of the bathroom with her. The two blondes watched them run out of the bathroom. Those two are hiding something, aren't they? Kara asked. Definitely. Wonder what they were going on about here. Galatea wondered. They did seem to be a bit red in the face. Barbie and Tatsu had gotten back to their lockers. Barbie leaned against her locker, letting out a sigh. I thought you weren't concerned with what people thought about you, Tatsu said in an almost mocking tone. There's being honest and then there's suicide with those two? I am not in the best standing with them, so testing my luck with them isn't the best idea. Barbie admitted. That is a good point, Tatsu agreed. We need to keep our heads straight, but you were right. Barbie snapped at that statement. What was I right about? Barbie asked. Ever since that night, every time I think about Midoriya, I can't get that strange feeling out of my mind. It is as if I was seeing a champion that grew from all his defeats and victories. Tatsu recounted. All those scars prove that he hasn't stopped trying to become the hero he wants to be. Oh yeah, those scars really can turn a girl on. Barbie purred. Please don't make my thoughts dirtier than they already are, Tatsu muttered. As I was saying, he does make me want to strive forwards and earn my spot as a true hero. Sounds like you have the bearings of a crush, Tatsu, Barbie pointed out just as the bell sounded once more. We need to speak about this further, but we're off to class. Agreed. You are a surprisingly good listener, Barbie, Tatsu said. Thank you. Not just a pretty face with a hot body, honey. See you at lunch, Barbie said, waving at her new friend. The two girls went their separate ways, hoping to pass the rest of the day without any other problems or slip-ups. However, that didn't go according to plan. Every time that either Barbie or Tatsu came across one or more members of the Titans, they were met with similar pictures and images. When Tatsu came across Barbara in the halls, she saw her carrying her books. She waved to the bat-themed hero, causing her to wave back. Barbara's books fell to the ground, causing Tatsu to help her pick them up. But as soon as their eyes met, Tatsu saw Barbara on her hands and knees with Izuku standing behind her. Tatsu's face turned beet red. She picked up the books and handed them to Barbara before running away. Barbie was taking notes on her next class, sitting next to Jessica. She dropped her pen. As she cursed her clumsiness, Barbie picked it up and gave it to the Latina. But as soon as her eyes landed on her neighbor, she was met with a clear sight of the Green Lantern's large breasts. As Barbie's impulses told her to jump the Emerald Titan, she held herself back before going back to her notes. Tatsu was working out during PE and came across Karen. The smaller teen was panting and sweating like crazy. However, Tatsu's eyes were glued to the short Titan. The way that her shirt was basically clinging to her chest became too much for the swordswoman. She quickly turned around and ran past all the other students, leaving them in the dust. Tatsu cursed herself as she made it to the bathroom after breaking a speed record. After a long day, lunch had finally arrived. Barbie and Tatsu fell down against the chairs of the table. They let out a tired sigh. They were both exhausted, one because her instincts were driving her crazy, and the other because she felt she could no longer repress them. I cannot do this anymore, Barbie said. I concur. Every time I see the Titans, I cannot help but see them like that night, Tatsu admitted. If we ever run into Midoriya, I fear what I might do. Don't give me ideas. What we must do is just blow off some steam, that should do it, Barbie said. I do not need to explain what I mean, right? No, you do not need to explain it. I don't believe intense training will help me anyway, Tatsu admitted. You do know that you can set yourself up for some nasty comebacks, Barbie said. Tatsu wanted to glare at the cheetah woman, but no matter how much she bit her tongue, she had to admit that Barbie was right. Her lack of normal student and teenage interactions have left her without any idea of what to do in this kind of situation. If this were in those old samurai stories she read as a kid, she'd try to offer her services to the lord of the land. Sadly, Tatsu wasn't some samurai, and Izuku wasn't a lord that she could entrust her services to. At least she didn't feel like she could just walk up to him and ask to become one of his retainers. I know, Tatsu replied. I just wish there was an easy way to clear this out. Barbie opened one of her eyes and gave the girl a look over. With her enhanced senses, she could tell a lot about Tatsu's body and how she was put together. She could tell that Tatsu's muscles were lean and strong, she had very nice curves, and her skin was practically flawless. But Barbie couldn't get more than that, since the samurai's clothes did a very good job at hiding the juicier parts. There is one way I can think of, but I don't think you'll like it. Or maybe you will, Barbie said. I can certainly say which thing I'd do in this case. If you say the M word, I will hurt you, Tatsu threatened. I was going to suggest the M word as you call it. But there is only one more thing that I can think of, Barbie said. But you may not be ready on an emotional level, and even if you were, you'd have to jump through hoops to get it. Now it was Tatsu's time to give a look at Barbie. She wondered what the blonde queen bee had in mind. She was hoping that the idea was something that would actually help her process the strange feelings that she had swirling around her mind. Those thoughts were always accompanying her along with a fantasy. Her fantasy was one that had been having since that night. In the fantasy, Tatsu was a wandering samurai that had come across the warrior lord of the land with powerful female retainers by his side. She felt attracted to not only their power and skills but also by their compassion and sense of justice. She wanted to be part of that court and be part of their lives. But her brain always made her realize what was also in there. Tatsu just felt between a rock and a hard place. Well, I have no other ideas, Tatsu sighed. Barbie got close to Tatsu's ear. She gestured to get closer and then let her hear the proposal. You could get some of the SW word, Barbie whispered into Tatsu's ear. Tatsu's eyes snapped open. She was like a deer that had just gotten a flash of a massive truck's headlights. Her face slowly turned redder until she resembled a stop signal. She stood up in a single motion and jumped out the window. Oh come on, that was just dramatic for no reason, Barbie muttered before going after Tatsu. Barbie looked for her friend all over the school, hoping to find her before she did something weird. The last thing she wanted was to find that her little suggestion led Tatsu to a mental breakdown. She called for her friend, hoping to get a coherent response. Tatsu, Barbie called out. Where are you? Just then her enhanced ears picked up on some rustling behind some bushes. Barbie looked over the bushes and spotted Tatsu. She let out a sigh before sitting down next to her. I take it that my suggestion didn't help much, Barbie said. It wasn't that. I just can't bring myself to actually do the deed, Tatsu admitted. I just can't accept that people I know would be this open in such an intimate way. I'm afraid that I may not be able to live up to those expectations. Well, Tatsu, that's expected. My first time was not exactly what I expected, but in a way you can always get better, Barbie said. I just can't get over that. I mean, I can't even say those words. Tatsu said. Oh come on, words don't have too much power, only what you give them, Barbie said. I just can't get over that. I can't just say that I watched Izuku making love to Diana, Kara, Galatea, Z, Jessica, Barbara and Karen with you right next to me, or that I liked it, Tatsu said before realizing what she had said. Tatsu quickly put her hand over her mouth. There, you see? You said it, and see there, Barbie said, gesturing around them. Nothing bad happened. You two saw what? Barbie and Tatsu froze at the sound of several voices that they recognized all too well. They slowly turned around and the sight before them made their blood run cold. Standing above Barbie and Tatsu were none other than Diana, Kara, Galatea, Z, Jessica, Barbara and Karen. In hindsight, this was probably going to happen sooner or later. We should have just said that we saw them fucking, Barbie said before getting a shock from her collar. A short while later, all the female members of the Titans dragged both Barbie and Tatsu all the way back to their headquarters. The Titans were looking at them with a variety of expressions. Karen looked at Barbie and Tatsu with embarrassment. Barbara looked at them with her best Batman intimidation stare. Jessica looked at Barbie and Tatsu with a disapproving look of a mother. Z looked at them with half a mind to zap them with 100 lightning bolts. Galatea looked at Barbie and Tatsu with anger, her eyes glowing red with rage. Kara looked at them with an itching to give them a good thrashing. Diana looked at them with an inquisitive look, trying to make sense of this situation. Let me get this straight. You two came here 2 nights ago and watched our private time with Izuku? Jessica asked. Yeah, that sums it up, Barbie said as a blush appeared on her face. Does that mean you two saw us naked? Karen asked. Yes, Tatsu muttered, causing Karen to faint. I can see Barbie doing this, but you, Tatsu, give me a good reason not to make me give you a matching collar, Z demanded. Why the hell would you do that? Kara asked. And your answer better be a good one, Galatea added. Alright, look, we got a text from Z about meeting here at her penthouse. Barbie explained. The door was unlocked, so we entered the apartment and then we saw you. The Titans raised an eyebrow, each wondering if Barbie was telling the truth. They turned to Tatsu, who had remained quiet all the time up until now. Tatsu, Jessica said, causing her to jump. Did that night happen the way that Barbie said it did? Tatsu tried to look away and avoid the topic, but the looks from the women got to her. She looked at them as if they were dressed like that night. Her mind couldn't take it anymore. Yes, everything that Barbie said is true. I watched you all tear off each other's clothes and jump on each other, sweating, panting and mating with Izuku like animals. I can't stop seeing you all in my dreams, smelling the scent of your mating and lovemaking, and hear you scream in pleasure. Tatsu screamed, unable to hold it in much longer. And I loved every moment of it. I didn't even realize that I was masturbating to you all having sex. Wow, both the M word and the S word in a single sentence, Barbie muttered. What words? Barbara asked. I am so sorry for looking at you in such an intimate moment, but now I can't get it out of my head. So, if it is all right with you, Tatsu said, bowing her head, I would like to join you and become one of Izuku's retainers. All the girls were shocked at this request. Wow, did not expect that, Kara said. Look, you girls have all the right to say no, but look at the poor girl. She really needs this, Barbie said. Just humor her, and maybe it'll do her a lot of good. The Titans turned around and began discussing what they had just heard. They weren't happy about the 2 girls peeping at them during their intimate moment. But at the same moment they understood where they were coming from. The Titans were indeed surprised that Barbie and Tatsu had come out with what they had seen and how they were feeling. So what do we do? Jessica asked. Well, I just checked my texts, and they're telling the truth, Z sighed. They did admit their misgivings and that they want to become better. Given Tatsu's upbringing, this could have gotten far worse than this, Barbara said. Well, I don't buy it, Galatea said. How do we know this isn't some trick? Kara asked. Diana, what do you think? Jessica asked. Diana was deep in thought. However, she easily came to a decision of what to do. I think the decision is simple, Diana said, turning to her friends. Their feelings are pure and we are not in any position to tell them what they should feel or not. I say we give them a chance. Them? Kara asked. Are you putting Kitty along with Tatsu? I think she has suffered enough, Diana said. All of us in favor? The girls had their own thoughts on the matter, but they all eventually nodded in agreement. All right, but if they step out of line we kick their asses, Kara said. Agreed, Galatea added. Very well then, Diana said before they all turned to face both Barbie and Tatsu. We've come to a decision. You two will be able to join our sisterhood, Diana said. Really? Both Barbie and Tatsu asked. Yes, but remember, we all share Izuku equally. Diana said. No sabotaging or trying to steal from each other. You understood, Tatsu said, bowing in respect. I'm willing to play ball if I can be with my beloved mate, Barbie said. Does this also mean that the collar comes off? One more day, Kitty, Z replied. At that moment, Izuku arrived at the Titans' headquarters. Hey guys, what's going on? Izuku asked. All the girls looked at each other before smiling at him. Izuku, beloved, we have something to tell you, Diana said, giving him a saucy look. Izuku blushed adorably. Barbie sat on the couch of the Titans' headquarters. She had a smile on her face, but not as mean as her usual one. The day had finally come. Barbie had finally gone through her whole punishment with the collar and she hadn't cracked. She had all the right to act all smug about her situation but tried to remain as composed as possible. She couldn't crack at the last moment. She looked at Izuku, knowing that his approval would be the key to her getting the collar off for good. The rest of the Titans were all standing around her, waiting for Z to get on with it. Well, Barbie, you have gone through your punishment and now it is time for your collar to come off, Diana said. Yeah, she hasn't done anything that would make the collar stay on any longer, Barbara added, looking at the data that she had gotten from Barbie's movements. You were keeping tabs on her? Karen asked. Well, at least you kept her under surveillance all this time. That way we know that she didn't try anything funny to skip out on her punishment. Guess that means that she has proven that she is trustworthy, Jessica said. Plus, with Diana as her new roommate, she won't be able to pull any underhanded trucos. I still don't think she's all there, Kara said. Yeah, we wouldn't be doing this if someone checked her text before sending them, Galatea said, giving Z some side-eye. All right, I get it. I've been grilled enough for all that already, Z snapped. Besides, we all agreed that it was about time to see if Barbie wanted to change. Isn't that right, darling? Yes, I believe that Barbie is willing to make a change, Izuku said, bringing a look of hope from Barbie. But we have to give her the chance to show us that she is willing, and for that we need to see what she'll do without the collar restraining her. I say it is time to take it off. Barbie couldn't help but briefly think that he wanted to take off more than just her collar. She bit her lower lip, trying to contain herself. She couldn't try anything funny at that moment. Barbie had to keep her face straight. There would be future times in which she would be able to make love to her beloved mate. If it helps, I promise not to cause any trouble for you girls, Barbie said. I may want to repay you for all that cosplaying you made me do, but I will not harm you. That doesn't sound very friendly, Barbie, Diana said. Well, you weren't the one forced to dress like a slutty teacher or a maid, Diana, Barbie replied. Girls, please don't fight now, Izuku begged them. Barbie, please keep calm. Barbie blushed. She couldn't be mad at the way that Izuku spoke to her. She had gotten used to the idea of having him be with her. She didn't even mind that he was being shared by 7, soon to be 8, other women. Just being near the green-haired man made Barbie feel like she was in a warm embrace. Well, let's get this over with, Z said, walking up to Barbie. Barbie flinched slightly as Z got up to her eye level. Relax, I'm not gonna kiss you. Not now at least, and only if you want to, Z said, grabbing the collar gently. Sealer. The collar came off almost as easily as any normal necklace. Barbie moved her neck left and right. She rubbed the back of her neck, getting used to the idea that her neck was freed from any restrictions. Now that's that, Z said, holding the collar in her hand. How do you feel, Barbie? Barbie took a deep breath before cracking her neck. It was as though she had been wearing a mask on her face all this time. She could feel the spirit of the cheetah giving her an itch that she desperately wanted to scratch. She closed her eyes, holding back the desire to transform into cheetah, if only for a few more minutes. I feel splendid, Z. But I feel like I need to stretch my legs, Barbie said, opening her eyes to show them now turned into those of a cheetah. Izuku, would you be so kind as to accompany me? Izuku was slightly shocked by what Barbie had just asked of him, but he figured that it was innocent enough. He composed himself before giving her a smile. He needed to show that he trusted her and show that she was trustworthy for the other girls. Yeah, I'll accompany you if you want, Izuku said. I feel like going all out on this, so you might want to wear something appropriate for this, Barbie said, getting looks from the other girls. I mean your hero suit, that way you won't destroy your normal clothes. Oh, that makes sense. Just let me grab my suit and I'll meet you outside, Izuku said, grabbing his hero suit. As soon as Izuku was out of the room, Barbie turned her sights to the girls. We expect you to take it slowly, young lady, Kara said. Yeah, so don't try any hanky-panky while you're outside, Galatea added. Oh, you needn't worry, I only want to stretch my cheetah legs, Barbie said, getting up from the couch. Wow, so you don't hold any grudges? I'm surprised, Galatea said. Yeah, if I was in your spot I'd be planning some serious payback, Kara said. I'm sure we can be sure that Barbie is above such petty behaviors, Diana said. That's true, I don't hold grudges, Barbie said, passing the two Kryptonians. I prefer to get even. Just then, the sound of sharp nails slicing through clothes echoed through the room. A second later, the back of both Kara and Galatea's pants fell to the floor with hearts cut right on their asses. Kara and Galatea yelped in surprise and embarrassment. There, now we're even, Barbie said, skipping out of the headquarters. The two Kryptonians glared at Barbie as she left the hideout. At least she's trying, Diana said, sheepishly, but only got glares from Kara and Galatea. Deku and Cheetah were running through the rooftops of the city at great speed. They jumped from building to building, leaving nothing but sparks of green lightning and a blur from cheetah fur. This wasn't a race, but they wanted to keep up with each other. It turned out that after such a long time from being able to transform, all Barbie wanted was a free run throughout the city. And the only other person she wanted to be with was Izuku. It feels so good to stretch my legs after all this time, Cheetah said as her claws dug into the roof, pushing her forward. I thought you and Diana were on the gymnastics team. Didn't you get enough exercise during practice? Deku asked. Cheetah made an abrupt stop, forcing Deku to stop as well. If I was just a regular person, then yes, but I've got this amazing power that makes all that look like child's play. Cheetah replied, admiring her body. It's like when you learn how to walk and then you're forced to crawl. Haven't you ever felt like you want to do more but playing it by the rules of others limits you? Deku didn't want to say no to the woman, since she had only asked for a jog. He thought that this would be a good way to assess her powers and how they worked. He had seen heroes with mutation-type quirks and powers back in Japan, and a few here in Metropolis like Mirko and Giganta. However, it was the first time he had seen someone gain those powers through mystical means. He kept his eyes on her as his mind rushed with all the implications of a transformation like the one that Cheetah went through. However, his fixed gaze was not missed by Cheetah. She gave him a sultry look and gave him a light purr. If you wanted to get a good look at my body, you just had to ask, Cheetah said, pressing her breasts together and giving Deku a hungry grin. You are my mate after all. You've seen me with far less than this. Deku was very glad that they were alone and that he was wearing his mask. If Cheetah could see his face now, he'd never be able to live it down. He was sure that he looked like a red stoplight. No, I wasn't looking at you like that, Cheetah. I swear, Deku said, holding his hands up in defense. I swear, I'd never do something like that without consent, I swear. Cheetah laughed, throwing her head back. She had been playing the nice girl for so long that she had to let out a lot of naughtiness that she used to do. She loved to tease her little green bunny. She really couldn't wait to get him ready for bed and get him to cut loose on her. You are far too easy to tease, honey, Cheetah said, kissing Deku on the cheek. Cheetah took off, leaving Deku behind to eat her dust. She jumped to another roof, running like a beast and as free as a bird. She laughed as she jumped up and down through the concrete jungle that was Metropolis. Deku ran after her. As much as he trusted her, he needed to keep an eye on her. However, they weren't as invisible running through the street as they thought. A black van followed after Cheetah as she made a turn to Metropolis Central Park. Cheetah jumped down to the green lush grass, landing on her hands and feet like a well-trained cat. She jumped up at the trees. She hopped from top to top with great skill. Cheetah felt like the queen of the jungle. The park might have been a simple substitute for the real jungle, but it was her own. She dropped from the treetops next to the fountain. Ah, how I miss this. I can now see the allure of this whole patrol thing, Cheetah said, leaning on the fountain. In the bushes, a dart was being loaded into a special rifle. Cheetah was looking down at her reflection at the fountain pool. She always loved checking herself out, and in her furry form was no exception. She winked at it like she often did with the mirror. Oh yes, you are so fetching, girl. I can't wait to see my bunny looking at me in all my glory, Cheetah said. Meow. Just then she felt a sharp sting in her back. Ow, Cheetah yelped, reaching at her back. She pulled out whatever stung her. She saw a tranquilizer dart in her hand. Cheetah heard the bushes behind her. She spotted someone walking out with a rifle slung over his shoulder. The man looked like a shaved gorilla wearing a large coat, a white shirt, beige pants, and a gray hat. What did you do to me? Cheetah growled. Not much. That tranquilizer should put you on a little catnap shortly, the gorilla man said. Cheetah was starting to feel her legs turn into noodles. She could barely hold on to the railing of the fountain. She then fell asleep in the arms of the gorilla man. She dropped the tranquilizer dart on the floor. Oof, she may look like a lady, but she weighs a ton, the gorilla man grunted. The gorilla man went off to his van, placing a knocked-out Cheetah in the back. Just as the gorilla man closed the door, Deku arrived at the park. He looked around for signs of his friend. Cheetah, where are you? Deku asked, looking for any signs of her. Just then, Deku spotted the dart on the ground next to the fountain. He knelt down to check it out. He picked it up and examined the dart. Deku didn't like this one bit. A tranquilizer dart in the last place his friend was supposedly been. This isn't good, Deku muttered. He then heard the engine of a car starting. He saw a black van driving away from the scene. Cheetah, Deku called out, activating One for All. As he called out the power of his quirk, he began to levitate slightly. He had instinctually activated the new aspect of his quirk. He followed after the van. Deku was not going to let the man drive that van away from him. He wanted to stop the van with Black Whip, but the driver took a sharp turn into the back streets. Deku took a sharp turn trying to keep up with the mad driver. However, he was met with laundry lines in his way. He was temporarily blinded by a large sheet drying off. "Arg!" Deku cried out, crashing down on the street with the sheet on his face. Deku grunted, pulling the sheet off of him. He cursed his luck as he had lost the trail of the kidnappers. He looked up and thought of a way to catch up with the van. He called upon his quirk once more and started bouncing from wall to wall. Deku made it all the way to the top, using float to go even higher. He looked down and saw that he was actually using the new quirk. "Alright, I think I'm getting the hang of this," Deku muttered, looking for any signs of the black van. Deku kept looking for signs of the van, but at night it wasn't as easy as he hoped. He heard the sound of screeching wheels. He snapped his head and spotted the black van passing cars on the freeway and out of the city. "Damn, I won't be able to catch up to him from here," Deku muttered, looking for something to help him catch up. Deku spotted a water tower and a large antenna standing side by side with each other. He looked at where they stood. As soon as he saw where they were aiming, he got one crazy idea. "I don't know if this is reckless or if Kara and Galatea would want to pull this off," Deku said, activating Black Whip. Deku fired 2 strands of Black Whip at the water tower and the antenna. He jumped back using the power of One for All. He pulled back, causing his whips to tighten up like a pair of bungee cords. He felt the tension in his arms and how one wrong step would send him flying out of the city. His feet were digging into the roof under him. He let out a breath trying to calm himself out. "Let's go beyond. Plus Ultra," Deku called out, releasing his feet. Deku was catapulted to the outer parts of the city. He tried to call upon Float to steer himself towards where the van was taking Cheetah. He flew through the air, using Float to keep himself from crashing. He meanwhile used One for All to fire small Delaware smashes to keep himself from going too fast. His eyes were watering as he left the lights of the city behind him. The green-haired hero looked at the forest-covered landscape until he spotted a large mansion hidden amongst the mountains. It looked like the home of a king from some faraway land with a massive jungle behind it. Deku looked down at the entrance of the mansion and spotted the van parked there. "Hang on, Cheetah. I'm on my way," Deku said, using Black Whip to swing down to the ground. Cheetah was coming out from the dart that had knocked her out. She opened her eyes, nauseous at the feeling of her head spinning. Her eyes quickly adapted to the light of the room where she was. She looked around and saw that she was in some sort of lab. She saw a table filled with beakers and bottles of chemicals, a large computer, diagrams of different big cats and how they were structured. She felt the coldness of the table she was on. Cheetah tried to get up from the table, but she spotted some strong restraints on her hands and feet. She tugged at the leather holds, but before she could do much to them, she heard steps getting closer. She looked at the entrance of the lab. A large shadow stepped out of the hallway and into the lab. The creature was large, covered in dark gray fur with 2 long cat ears standing on top of its head, a long gray tail, razor-sharp claws and fangs. It had 2 big yellow eyes with cat irises looking directly at Cheetah. Its body was muscular and easily a head taller than Cheetah. The creature looked down at Cheetah with the same curiosity that a cat would have if something new came up to them. It sniffed at her, causing Cheetah to recoil and hiss at the creature. Cheetah might have been restrained, but she wasn't going to let that stop her from giving some pain. She snarled as she tried to cut herself free from her leather restraints. "Tigress!" an old voice called out. The creature looked at the origin of the voice. At the door of the lab was an old man. He had short red hair, fair skin with wrinkles on his face. He wore a long white lab coat with black pants and black shoes. In his hand was a cane with a cat sculpted on the handle. He walked with a noticeable limp on his left leg. But every step he took showed that he carried himself with the dignity that a cat would usually carry itself. "Don't bother our guest, Tigress. You'll have enough time to get to know each other later," the man said. "Go to the gym. It's time for your exercises." Tigress nodded like an obedient trained pet. He gave Cheetah one final glance before leaving the lab. "I'm not sure if you can understand me, but I am truly sorry for all this," the man said to Cheetah. "You will be sorry when I get free, old man." Cheetah growled, surprising the scientist. "Incredible. You can speak and understand me." It took Tigress years to even say simple sentences, the scientist said as he observed Cheetah's vital signs. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Dr. Midoriya, and this is my laboratory, where I work to perfect genetically enhanced creatures. I've had the displeasure of meeting 2 of them already," Cheetah hissed. "Yes, Garth was one of my first experiments, but Tigress is the pinnacle of my work. All the strength and power of the great wildcats brought together by my work." Emil said, "I was about to begin work on creating a companion for him, but then you showed up." Cheetah raised an eyebrow at his claim. "Your power and skill are perfect. Together you and Tigress will bring about a new species, one pure of the errors of humanity." Emily said, "We tracked you for weeks hoping to get a clear view of you, but then you suddenly disappeared. I feared the worst. We had to take action as soon as we spotted you once more. And now, we can continue with the plan." "You're kidding, right?" Cheetah asked. "I am not some experimental brood mother. Only I can choose my mate and your pet, isn't it?" "We shall see, Doctor," Emil replied. At the top of the mansion, Deku was skulking in the shadows while he looked for an opening to slip in. He spotted a large glass skylight in front of him. He looked down at the large skylight and spotted Cheetah and Dr. Emil. There you are, Deku muttered. Deku reached for the latch of the skylight. I'd stop right there, bub, Garth said. Deku looked over his shoulder at the owner of the voice. He slowly turned to face the guy that had caught him. He saw Garth, the gorilla man that had captured Cheetah, and he was holding a rifle in his hands. Now we're going to have a little chat with the doc, Garth said. I have a few things to say to you and him myself, Deku added. Deku activated One for All, increasing his speed to being faster than a speeding bullet. He blinked out of Garth's sight, surprising him. Garth looked up to see Deku reeling back both of his hands in the air. Smash! Deku called out, bringing down both of his fists on Garth's head. The skylight shattered under Garth's feet, bringing them both down. Dr. Emil recoiled in shock as the glass, Garth and Deku fell down to the lab. Garth groaned in pain as Deku stepped towards Dr. Emil. Deku, I wasn't expecting to see you here. To Dr. Emil said. What business do you have to break into my home and attack my employee? You kidnapped someone and you expect me to just sit back? That won't happen. Deku said, narrowing his eyes. You will release her this instance or I will. Darling, you've come to save Mum, Cheetah said with a smile beaming on her face. Dr. Emil was not sure why the Emerald Knight of Metropolis wanted to help a criminal, but he had come too far to stop now. He would see his new race flourish if it was the last thing he'd do. Tigress, Dr. Emil called. Deku turned to the entrance of the laboratory just as something ran on its four legs. Tigress jumped out of the hallway and into the laboratory. He landed between Dr. Emil and Deku. He growled at the green hero, showing his claws with an intent to kill. Deku activated his quirk once more. He was ready to fight the creature with what he had. Tigress lunged at the hero, brandishing his claws. Deku used his speed to dodge the attack. He felt a slash across his right shoulder. He looked at the slash on his suit before glaring at Tigress. Impressive, isn't he? Dr. Emil said. He'll need more than a scratch to take me down, Deku replied. Tigress lunged at Deku once more, but the hero was ready for him this time. Deku used his speed to dodge the attacks of the anthropomorphic cat. He caught one of the claws and flipped Tigress in a judo flip. He then spun on his heel before landing a powerful kick at his stomach, sending Tigress at his master. With the creature and the doctor incapacitated, Deku rushed to the table. Are you all right, Cheetah? Deku asked. I am now, Cheetah replied, helping Deku cut herself free. They sprung out of the lab like two bats out of hell. Dr. Emil was helped up by Tigress and Garth. They must not escape, Dr. Emil said. Tigress, you must destroy that man. He is an enemy of mine and you. Tigress nodded in understanding. He growled before turning to the way that Deku and Cheetah rushed off. He rushed after them with Garth right behind him. He ran like a beast wanting to kill its prey. Deku and Cheetah exited the mansion, but found themselves inside a large jungle greenhouse. The heat of the greenhouse was like the one of a proper jungle, and Deku couldn't help but feel overdressed for the place. Cheetah, however, felt like she was back home. The heat agreed with her, and she would have wanted to rush through it. But they had much bigger problems to deal with. They looked around to see where they could get out of the property before they were made the next experiments of Dr. Emil. Do you see any exits? Cheetah asked. We could break our way out, but we can't let Dr. Moreau run loose with his experiments, Deku said, pulling out his phone. No signal. Looks like we're on our own. Just then, the sound of a shot flew over their heads. Deku and Cheetah turned and spotted Garth holding the loaded rifle and Tigress growling at them. Want to run into the jungle? Cheetah asked. Thought you'd never ask, Deku replied as they rushed into the jungle greenhouse. Let's lose them in the jungle brush. I prefer to fight, darling. Cheetah countered. I say let's take them down. Another bullet flew past them, hitting a branch. It caused a cat with wings to hiss in fear before flying away. Split up, we'll take them down at their own game, Deku said, getting tired from all the shots. Cheetah smiled, looking at her green-haired lover. Now, you're thinking like a hunter, Cheetah said. Deku used his more agile body to jump up towards the trees, dodging the bullets with ease. Cheetah used her greater speed to zigzag through the lush jungle, hiding her tracks from the ones that were chasing her. Garth and Tigress stopped momentarily looking at where they were supposed to hunt. Tigress didn't wait long. He made the decision to do what his father had asked of him. He sniffed for the scent of the green invader. Tigress picked it up and roared in anger, rushing after the scent of the intruder. Guess I'll go after the girl. Garth grunted, reloading his rifle. It'll be the city all over again. Deku jumped from branch to branch, keeping the distance between him and those that were chasing him. He stopped behind one of the trees. He hadn't heard any shots for a while. He hoped that Cheetah had gotten a fair distance away from Garth and Tigress. A part of him wondered who was the one chasing him if the plan worked. As Deku was wondering who would be his opponent, a loud buzzing rang at the base of his skull. He looked up as the sense was telling him. His eyes widened as Tigress jumped down to attack him. Deku jumped back in shock as Tigress tore through the branch the hero had been sitting on. Tigress growled at the hero as they began to circle each other. Deku narrowed his eyes at the anthropomorphic cat man. He didn't know what kind of instincts were leading the cat, but he would fight him until the end. He tightened his fist as One for All crackled around his body like a protective aura. Tigress pounced on Deku with a sharp swipe from the left. Deku dodged the attack, landing a punch across the creature's face. Tigress landed on his feet, springing back into action. He rushed at Deku, tackling him into the deeper jungle trees. Deku lifted up his arms to protect himself, but the strength of Tigress was greater than his footing. The green-haired hero moved his head to the left, avoiding the bite of the vicious Catman. Deku tried to push Tigress off of him, but the experiment wasn't letting up. He then landed a kick on Tigress's stomach, flipping him over. He spun back to his feet just as the Catman landed back on its feet. Deku had plenty of experience facing off against cat-themed opponents, but they had all been female, and Tigress most likely didn't know what he was doing. He needed to defeat Tigress without hurting him too much. Tigress lunged at Deku once more, but the hero was ready this time. His claws were pulled back before he swung them at the hero's neck. Deku ducked under the claws of the Catman. He then sprung back up, landing 2 straight punches on his stomach. "Delaware smash," Deku called out. Deku opened up his hands, sending the current of air into Tigress. He had focused 20% of his quirk in the tips of his fingers, sending the strong blast of focused air into the enemy. Tigress doubled in pain before being sent all the way up by the attack. Deku, however, wasn't done. He called on the power of Black Whip. He fired it at Tigress, wrapping him in the black tendril. He then swung down Tigress against one of the larger trees. Deku then focused Black Whip into a strong snare, wrapping Tigress against the tree. "Let Mum Dogo," Tigress roared. "You can talk?" Deku questioned, holding down Tigress. "My father taught me," Tigress snapped. "Dr. Emil is your creator, not your father," Deku said. "If you are able to understand me, then you must be able to use reason. You must know that this is wrong. He told me you were my enemy, that I must destroy you," Tigress snapped. "Your father kidnapped my friend for his experiments. I won't let him hurt her," Deku said, activating One for All. "You'll have to stay here for a while." Deku used his greater speed to pick up all the jungle vines he could find. He tied up Tigress with the vines before taking off in search of Cheetah. Cheetah was running on the jungle floor. She was in her element, and the last thing that she was going to have was trouble with some gorilla man hybrid. Her ears perked up at the sound of something coming towards her. She snuck into the foliage of the jungle. She sniffed the air for any scent of her pursuer. Her nose picked up on the smell she needed. Cheetah smelled the scent of cheap liquor, gunpowder, and monkey. "Payback time, Garth?" Cheetah said, ducking under the leaves. Garth came out with his gun ready to shoot. He looked down at the ground, seeing Cheetah's prints almost as clear as day. He slowly got back up, keeping his eyes open in case his prey jumped out from behind the bushes. "Now, Missy, no need to play any funny games," Garth said as he aimed his rifle at the bushes. "The doc only wants to have a nice chat with you." The bushes rustled behind Garth. He turned back at the noise, but there was nothing there. Garth spun around while he held his rifle tightly. "If you just come out, we can talk this out," Garth said, keeping his eyes open for any other movements. "I am getting a little tired of playing games in the dark with you." The bushes rustled to Garth's side once more. He turned around to the source of the noise. He fired the rifle at the bushes that had made that noise. Garth quickly reloaded his rifle as some of the mutated cats flew away from the loud bang. A low growl came from the bushes Garth had just shot. He slowly inched closer to the bushes, ready to finish off whatever he had shot. "Don't worry, girlie," Garth said. "This one won't hurt one bit." Garth moved the leaves away, ready to fire his rifle, but all he was met with was an empty spot. "You missed," Cheetah retorted. Garth was suddenly struck from the back. He tried to shoot Cheetah once more, but she swiped her claw, slicing the weapon in half. Cheetah stood over the gorilla man. She growled at the hybrid that had kidnapped her and brought her to this miniature version of the island of Dr. Moreau. "Not fun to be the prey, is it?" Cheetah snarled, showing her fangs at the gorilla man. Garth tried to scurry away from Cheetah, but he didn't get far. Cheetah grabbed hold of Garth's ankle and pulled him back. She slammed him back on the ground. She stood over him before kicking Garth across the face. "That's for touching my ass while I was unconscious," Cheetah said before rushing away from the scene. "Only my mate may touch me like that." Deku was running amidst the jungle, hoping to find Cheetah and leave the mansion, but he was not having any luck. Just then the buzzing sensation returned, causing him to jump back. At that moment, Tigress landed with a sharp slash intended for him. Deku glared at Tigress as he prepared himself for another fight. But before they could exchange blows, Cheetah landed between them. She roared at Tigress with a defiant roar, shocking Tigress. "Stay away from him," Cheetah snarled. "Why are you protecting him? He is our enemy," Tigress said. Cheetah was slightly shocked at the revelation of Tigress talking. "Did you know that he could talk?" Cheetah asked Deku. "I just found out," Deku replied. "Listen, Tigress, Deku is not our enemy. He is the man I love," Cheetah said. "And if you hurt him, then you'll have to go through me." Just then Cheetah realized what she had said. She had said she loved Deku, and it had come out so easily. She wasn't sure of what she felt, but for now she had to stay strong against Tigress. "But I must defeat him. That way we can be together," Tigress said, reaching out for Cheetah. "Is that what you believe, or is it what your father told you?" Deku asked. "You know we're not your enemy. Stay out of this," Tigress snapped, baring his fangs at Deku. Cheetah snarled at Tigress once more, but then she saw what Deku was referring to. She saw how Tigress started to react to what they were saying. "He is right, Tigress. This isn't right. I can't be owned like that," Cheetah said. "Only I can choose the one I love." But that doesn't make sense. Father said, Tigress began. I'm sure that he says a lot of things that don't make sense. Cheetah said. Tigress held his head in confusion. He had never been forced to think of such things. What he had done for his father made sense, but now all that they were telling him also made sense. He dug his fingers into his head, trying to make sense of it all. But all he could do was roar in pain and confusion. Tigress took off back into the large mansion. It seems that it got through to him. Deku said. We should go now. Cheetah said. We need to get as far from this place as possible. We can't. Dr. Emile has to be brought to justice, and I fear that in the state he is in, Tigress could kill him. Deku said. Cheetah let out a sigh. Guess I got the whole packet when I fell for you, didn't I? Cheetah sighed. Well, let's go catch up to them. Deku and Cheetah took after Tigress in hopes of finding him and Dr. Emile before they killed each other. Back at the mansion, Dr. Emile was not happy for the results that Tigress had brought him. Dr. Emile had been packing all his equipment when Garth returned to the mansion to help him. Shortly afterwards, Tigress returned, and at first Dr. Emile had been thrilled about the return, but he wasn't so happy. You let them both escape? How could you do that, Tigress? Emile demanded. You just threw away 20 years of work. You should have killed Deku. He should be dead by your claws and fangs. But father, he is not food and he is not my enemy. Why do I have to fight him? Tigress asked. Dr. Emile replied with a sharp slap across the face. You have to fight him to get rid of him, so that he doesn't get in the way of our work. Emile claimed. The doors opened up. Deku and Cheetah entered the laboratory. They looked at the people in the room. They would not allow them to escape justice. Garth rushed to the top of the stairs. He reeled back his fist, but he never threw a punch. Deku's fist landed a critical punch on Garth's face, knocking him out. It's over, Dr. Emile. You're coming with me and answer for your crimes, Deku said. Deku jumped down to the ground floor. Dr. Emile recoiled in fear. He got behind Tigress, seeking protection from his creation. Tigress, please, you can't let him take me, Dr. Emile begged. Tigress turned to face Deku once more. He growled and bared his claws at him. My fight isn't with you, Tigress. Deku said. I don't have a choice, he is my father, Tigress replied. As the two prepared to fight, Cheetah was preparing herself to jump in and aid her mate. But just then she heard a shotgun being cocked back. Everyone turned to see Dr. Emile holding a shotgun in his hands. And he was aiming it at Cheetah. This is all your fault, you turned him against me, Emile said, firing his weapon. However, before the shot could hit Cheetah, Deku activated Black Whip once more. He pulled her away from the shot. Dr. Emile reloaded his weapon and prepared to shoot once more, but Tigress caught the weapon. Tigress growled at his father. He tore the weapon from his hands before throwing it at the table filled with chemicals. Once the chemicals were smashed and mixed together, creating a fire on the table. No, Tigress, my research, Dr. Emile cried out. Tigress didn't listen to his father. He instead attacked all the work that had brought him and others to life. He flipped the table, spreading the fire around the laboratory. He then started crushing the different computers and plans. A great rage fueled Tigress, and nothing except the destruction of all things around him would make him feel any better. He didn't care for the spreading fire, nor the pleas of his father. Tigress, please stop this, Dr. Emile begged. Deku tried to help them, but Cheetah grabbed his shoulder, pulling him back. You're no good to anyone if you are burned alive, Cheetah said, pulling Deku out of the lab. Deku and Cheetah pulled Garth out of the burning lab as Tigress punched the computer screens. Tigress, please, this isn't you, Dr. Emile said. I am not stopping, father. This is what I want. Tigress roared, smashing his fists against the computer. Deku and Cheetah made their way out of the mansion as the rest of the place caught fire. They dropped Garth in the back of the van. I've got to go back. Maybe I can save them, Deku said, turning to face the burning building once more. Wait, look, Cheetah said, pointing to the entrance of the mansion. Tigress walked out of the burning building. He carried his father in his arms. He walked up to the van where he gently placed the doctor on the floor. Deku knelt down to the doctor, checking the pulse and breathing of the doctor. He's alive, Deku said. You saved him, Cheetah said, looking at Tigress. He is my father. I wanted to save him, Tigress said. Tigress turned to head back into the only home he ever knew as rain started to fall on the mansion. Tigress, why don't you come with us? We could find a way to help you, Deku offered. There is no place for me out to there, Tigress replied before running into the dark jungle. Deku and Cheetah remained in silence as the black smoke of the mansion and the rain mixed together. Deku stared in dismay. He wanted to help Tigress, but it seemed like he couldn't do anything. Cheetah saw the look of distress on Deku's face. She placed her hand on his shoulder. That's the thing about saving people. Sometimes you can't help everyone, Cheetah said, comforting Deku. I know, but a hero must always try to help those in need, Deku said. Cheetah looked down, thinking of a way to make him feel any better. She then looked at the rising moon. A thought came to her. She wasn't sure if it would do anything to encourage the man she cared for, but Cheetah gave it a shot anyway. This reminds me of a poem that my father once told me, Cheetah said. What was it about, Deku asked. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? Cheetah recalled as the light of the moon shone brightly upon them. And guys, this is the end. I hope you guys enjoyed well. Until next time.